They wrote it in the laws, ink still bleeds, treating women like soil, just planting seeds. She's gone, brain dead, not even awake, but the state's got a claim, gonna plant its stake. Say it's God's will, say it's life they protect, but they ain't the ones feeling pain or neglect. From Texas to Georgia, they set the trap, rights roll back while they smile and clap. Gilead's here, this is true. Hey MAGA fools, they'll come for you too. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. This ain't pro-life, it's control and shame. They don't care if she's gone, just playing a game. Keep her hooked to machines, cold and still, just a vessel to them, not a human with will. No consent, no voice, no chance to resist, just laws in place, written with a clenched fist. Hospitals scared, judges playing God, bodies ain't temples, just stay on pods. Gilead's here, this is true. Hey MAGA fools, they'll come for you too. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. Bands in the dark, they don't care who it kills, sacking courts while they strip out all of your wills. But we'll fight back, march loud, burn bright, cause this ain't the end, it's the start of the fight. Gilead's here, ain't no grace, and those leopards are coming to eat your face. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. Not gonna be a baby incubator. Not gonna be a baby incubator.
This just in. A sudden spike in logic levels across the city. Citizens report seeing a man with glasses and a podcast mic.
We go now
Live to Liberal Dan.
Who you gonna call when Nazi writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, cause you know we got a plan. The right wing talking shit, but he ain't about to quit. He'll take his proton pack and zap your logic cause it's whack. So who you gonna call when the writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, and the rhetoric will fall.
It's being reported that Liberal Dan is setting up what appears to be some sort of straw man containment field.
Calling out your lies with his mic, he'll vaporize. Cross the streams in your dreams, bitch, you know that he's too wise. You're like Slimer talking crap, but you walked into his trap. Yo, it's more than entertainment, it's misinformation containment. So who you gonna call when the writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, and the rhetoric will fall. The at you liberty, the writing you can see. So bring the huddled masses, it's a war of the classes. While Trump may think he's Vigo, Dan can cut through that ego. He's got the facts to prove him wrong, got that logic like Egon. Your logic is a ghost, cause you know this chick is toast. When you follow MTG, it's conspiracy, you'll see. There's no need to taser, he's got wit like Occam's razor. Liberal Dan cuts those lies with his Jewish space laser.
It's unbelievable. Liberal Dan just used the literal dog whistle to lure a large group of internet trolls into what is being called a self-collapsing rhetoric singularity. In all my years of reporting, I've never seen anything like this.
So don't call to be a heckler, you ain't no Judge Rexler. He'll bust you like Scolery, cause your logic's looking hairy. Right-wing callers think they're cool, but they sounding just like Zool. You the dog, he the man, and yo, his name is Liberal Dan. So who you gonna call when the writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, 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 and the rhetoric will fall. Liberal Dan, Liberal Dan, Liberal Dan.
Obama and Bush's pictures got hidden, obscuring the past, history rewritten. Hung in a hallway where no tour can see, confirming his unending fragility. If Trump can see it, it must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. Object permanent, a milestone missed. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. Was the line that he said. Hundreds of thousands needlessly dead. Now wait, treat justice run by brainworm quack, hiding the truth behind his back. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list, an administration run by narcissists. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. Oh yeah. Boxes of documents stacked floor to the wall, top secret folders in a bathroom stall. Charges were pressed, but the case was dropped. A corrupt judicial system he can corrupt. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. He'll swear it's fake news, a liberal twist. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. Encampments downtown, tents lining the street. Invisible people that power won't meet. Hide them away so the cameras can't find the proof of a system that's cold and unkind. A payout in secret, an NDA signed, and a legal bribe. Michael Cohen fined. Trump got fined too over his gag order, but she didn't gag cause he was much shorter. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. We can't let him win, he must resist. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist.
Gather round everyone and I'll tell you a tale about an orange-faced buffoon who should be in a jail. When people say he's done something that goes beyond the pale, he will shake his head and give this answer without fail. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, he says he tells no lies and that he never jokes. Confront him with the truth, he'll say it's all a hoax. A modern Don Quixote, he hates the windmills, claiming to protect the birds and whales. He says a shill. He just did not want to see them wild golfing on Scottish hills. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, changing a storm path with black marker strokes. Confront him with the truth, he'll say it's all a hoax. Casting mail-in ballots is something that he's done. Now he wants to ban them for each and every one. He claims it for integrity in each election, but he won't believe the results unless it's him that's won. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, he'll fool you with distractions like real sugar and cokes. Confront him with the truth, he'll say it's all a hoax. He promised to release all the Epstein files that caused all the MAGA base to react with smiles. But how long has he put it off? It sure has been a while, and now he's calling this a hoax, protecting pedophiles. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, he'll keep on gaslighting up until he croaks. Confront him with the truth, he'll say it's all a hoax.
Trump piled debt, trillions tall. Promised Mexico would fund our wall. Praised dictators that they're strong. Had Joe done it, they'd say he's wrong. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, poll numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they scream foul play. But Trump did it, so it must be okay. Golf through crisis, storms and more. Called soldiers losers who died in war. Hired his kids to run D.C. If it was Hunter, they'd scream treachery. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, Fox News would say LA. But Trump did it, so it must be okay. Love Kim Jong-un, he wrote love letters that take the guns first, lose those rights forever. Signed huge spending bills with glee. Had Joe done that, it'd be tyranny. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, poll numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they scream not today. But Trump did it, so it must be okay. Kept secret files, countless untold. Said Putin's word was good as gold. Invited the Taliban to come to U.S. soil. If Joe had done that, they'd all recoil. They all recoil. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, poll numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they want him to pay. But Trump did it, so it must be okay. Double standards loud and clear. Rules for Trump, but not for peers. What they call treason if Joe's the name is patriotism when Donald's to blame. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, poll numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they'd shout no way. But Trump did, so it must be okay.
A self-proclaimed king, a groper in chief, stealing our country, a crooked
That's right. A failing media that's barely treading water. They're too inept to fight this new world order. Corporate pigs are at the trough. Hear the squeal. The swine won't bite the hands that feast them meals. But liberal debt will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, then emotion night. Liberal Dan radio talk from the left. That's right. A leftist voice on air exposing market treason, breaking through their lies with facts, logic, and reason. Unmasking hypocrisy, the truth will be our guide. Call out their lies. Justice is on our side. 'Cause liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, down emotion night, liberal Dan radio talk from the left. That's right. Liberal Dan radio talk from the left. That's right.
God damn it. Ok, bienvenidos a Libro de Radio, charlas desde la Inquisiera, que son lo correcto. Las habla su anfitrión, Dan Zimmerman, transmito en vivo desde Nueva New Orleans, Louisiana. Welcome to Liberal Dan Radio, talk from left to right. This is your host, Dan Zimmerman, transmitting live from New Orleans, Louisiana. We are doing, again, you are not convinced, you are not confused, you are not... Whatever, this is, again, we've announced this for weeks now, that we will be doing a special Tuesday episode of Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left, That's Right, because I wanted to do it on Cinco de Mayo, because, well, you know, I just wanted to make all kind of versions of my music with some Hispanic flair to it. So what better way to do that than to put it on Cinco de Mayo, which required me to do it on a Tuesday instead of a Monday. So there we go. Anyway, so... One of my friends was like, I should have done the intro more like American based, like Bienvenidos a Liberal Dan Radio, Charles desde la izquierda que son lo correcto, las hablas un anfitrión, Dan Zimmerman transmitiendo en vivo desde Nueva Orleans, Louisiana. So, I know, I figure I'd do it both ways, right? So therefore... we can get it, of course, yesterday was May the 4th, Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. So why am I wearing a Darth Vader shirt? Well, because it's Revenge of the 5th. So clearly you want to wear a Darth Vader shirt if you're going to be celebrating Revenge of the 5th as well. And we have Cinco de Mayo on a Taco Tuesday. So it's all crazy. Thank you, Jackie, for the good job. Appreciate you, Jan, for gifting 10 Liberal Dan memberships, 10 more Liberal Danimals. I did see 5 eggs got 1, so that's awesome. It's always good to see when people are doing that. We will be talking about a lot of other stuff today, but there is one story that I like to retell. Big Hook, Louisiana, where you lose everything. Oh, my mind is the first thing that's losing when it comes to the Louisiana politics, and we'll be talking about that in a little bit. But let's tell an old story way back in the day. Thank you, Jen. Appreciate you. Happy Cinco de Mayo to you as well. So, way back in the day, long time ago, you had 3 shiploads of condiments that were being sent to the New World. They each kind of left at different times or whatever. So on April 25th, I think it was, April 25th, you had a shipment of ketchup, and that shipment of ketchup went across the sea over into the Gulf of Mexico and landed, no problem. Then 5 days later, the shipment of mustard shows up and it lands on the shores of Mexico, no problem. But at the beginning of May, 5 days in, you had a shipment of mayonnaise that was being sent to the New World, and it encountered a storm and it wrecked to the bottom of the sea, to the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico, and did not make it to shore, which is why every 5th of May we celebrate Cinco de Mayo. Anyway, thank you so much. Orb rumor, you can't fake Latin music. AI is trained by Whitey. I mean, that's probably true, especially when I'm training the AI, because, you know, I'm translucent almost, right? So, thank you, Aaron. Dad jokes are rad jokes. I have to, I mean, even your Facebook friends with me, you already saw that story already. I think I embellished it a little bit more. The Ponder Monkey, it's the Gulf of Nope. I am not calling it that. I will dead name the fuck out of Twitter, and I will dead name the fuck out of the Gulf of Mexico, because, you know, those names aren't changing for me. Humans, I will not dead name, even if you're a piece of shit scumbag. But, you know, I will absolutely, you know, even if they officially change the name in everywhere, I would absolutely be like, nope, sorry, it's Gulf of Mexico. Nope, sorry, it's Twitter. So, anyway. So thank you, Ponder Monkey, 250 Kilo Ohm, Jen, etc., for everybody over on Twitch. Appreciate you as well for showing up. Over on YouTube, we have James. Good to see you. Frank, Jan, Jackie, Quiet Storm, Christina, Aaron. Good to see you. Jeff from just north of Uranus. We got Big Hook in the house. Jackie. I don't know if I said Jackie already, but if I did, you're getting said twice because whatever. Orb Rumor. Still streaming on down, scrolling on down, trying to see who else I might have missed. Of course, again, thank you, Jan, for gifting 10 Liberal Dan Radio memberships. Who else did I miss? I thought I saw... oh, there's Steve from across the pond.
It's no Scottish, it's crap!
Janelle, if I happen to miss you a long way, Bob LeBlanc, good to see you. Suzanne, don't know if I haven't. If I've missed you already, I apologize for not hitting you up. I'm kind of scrolling kind of fast. Tim, good to see you. What else? Catherine, good to see you as well. So yes, and of course we're going to go ahead and gift 5 more memberships as well because we can. I get to do 5 at a time, 2 times a month. So 10 total that can be gifted. So good to see that people getting it. Good to see, especially people who have been in here, getting it more often than people that are like, you know, have just been here once or twice. But anyway, it is what it is. Oh, wait, that's Donald Trump's line.
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. Anyway, so what do we want to talk about first, shall we? Shall we figure out what to talk about? We've got... more hypocrisy coming from the right. And this is what one of the reasons we have this show is to expose the hypocrisy while I have a fly buzzing around my head. The Senate Judiciary Committee late on Monday added $1 billion to a spending package for the U.S. Secret Service to allow security upgrades to the compound tied to the construction of the White House ballroom. The $1 billion makes up part of a $72 billion budget reconciliation bill released by the Judiciary Panel and the Senate Homeland Security Committee. The bill's text does not specifically say the $1 billion will go to the ballroom, but that will go towards the purposes of security adjustments and upgrades, including within the perimeter of the fence of the White House compound to support enhancements by the U.S. Secret Service relating to East Wing modernization, including above-ground and below-ground security features. The committee has released the bill after the Senate and House passed a joint budget resolution last month, unlocking the special budget reconciliation process to ensure they could move forward with funding for federal immigration enforcement amid the Department of Homeland Security shutdown. Of course, you know, that's what they could have been doing all this time instead of whining, bitching, and moaning about the fact that Democrats are blocking it. These funds cannot be used for any non-security elements of the ballroom and nearby attached facilities according to the legislation. Do you think that's going to stop Trump? Do you think that would stop Trump from spending the money? Besides, Donald Trump said that it was going to be about $250 million and $300 million and then $400 million, and none of it would be paid by us. But now we're having $1 billion, $1 billion being allocated or attempting to be allocated towards this ballroom, making the price more than 3 times as much. More than 3 times as much. Almost 4 times as much as what the I guess the last number of $400 million. If we go back to the $250 million, that's like 6 times as much of the initial cost is now what this is going to cost American taxpayers. And now most of it will be incurred by the American taxpayer in and of themselves. And again, for any money that's being raised by Donald Trump to help support, the funding of the non-security portions of it, I'm sure they get special access to Donald Trump that nobody else could get because they're giving Trump money for his vanity project. So of course he's going to give them extra, accessibility to his office on top of that. But again, I also don't believe that Trump would be stopped from spending the money on non-security enhancements, or they'll find some way to wiggle it to basically say, okay, this is needed for security, but it's also going to be the door. And this is what's needed for security, but it will also be the windows. This is what's needed for security, but it will be the walls, and the walls will now be some more secure. This is what's needed for the floor. Lather, rinse, repeat. He's going to try and make as many things possible as security related, even if it's not security related. So the vast majority of it is going to be spent from our taxpayer dollars to fund his needless vanity project. White House spokesperson Davis Ingle told The Hill in a statement that the legislative branch has rightly recognized the needs for these funds. Yeah, there's no needs for these funds. You wouldn't need these funds if they would have not, torn down the East Wing and then started making this stupid vanity project. But, Donald Trump has no desire to follow any sort of check and balances or rules or laws or whatever in order for him to build things that he could put his name on. Democrats tore the bill, which also called for $30.73 billion for hiring, paying, training, and equipping immigration and customs enforcement personnel, including officers, agents, investigators, attorneys, and support staff through fiscal 2029. Democratic lawmakers have held up funding amid their calls for reforms to ICE and Border Patrol. Republicans won't allow our country to be dragged backwards by the Democrats' radical anti-law enforcement agenda, said Chuck Grassley. Of course, we're not anti-law enforcement. We want law enforcement to, you know what? Follow the fucking law. That's what we want law enforcement to do, to enforce the law and do so in legal ways. We don't want Judge Dredd out here doing this shit. Grassley added the committee is taking action to help provide certainty for federal law enforcement and safer streets for American families. Safer streets for American families are supposed to be done from the local level, right? Local and state level. But, hey, don't. The Constitution is just a set of guidelines that don't need to be followed when the Republicans are in control. Of course, they'll be like, Constitution when the Democrats are in charge, but they don't give a shit about the Constitution. DB Golding. Stop being so logical, Liberal Dan Radio. No, it's a problem. It's a problem that I have. I like to be too logical. This is why we need to tear down the West Wing and build a bank. We have the Iron Bank, like from Game of Thrones. President Trump and lawmakers have made the administration's push for a ballroom to emphasize the need for additional security following the attempted assassination at the White House Correspondents Association during last month. Quote, because, too fishy. Democrats have called out the push for the ballroom as out of touch for most Americans struggling with affordability. Well, that's obvious. Republicans are on a different planet than American families, says Chuck Schumer. Republicans looked at families drowning in bills and decided what they really needed was more raids and a Trump ballroom. Well, I mean, that's pretty much par for the course for the Republican Party, right? So there you go. The ballroom where Trump will be doing all of his rage posting and whining from. I thought that was from the shitter. I thought he basically did most of that when he was on the crapper. So Hoosier Scott, good night for Trump in Indiana, except in my district. Why is that? What happened in Indiana? Hoosier Scott, I guess I didn't see any Indiana news. Are there elections going on? Did Trump actually manage to win something for once? Let's see. Indiana today. Let's see. Indiana State Senate primary election 2026 live results are there. Okay. Indiana holds House primary elections as well. Let's see. Frank Mervyn, Democrat, leading with the primary at least, with 83% of the vote. House 1 Republican primary, Barb Regnitz wins. Let's see. That's just the 1st congressional district. I don't know. Maybe they change race. Okay, we got the 2nd Democratic primary. Trying to see what they're doing. Okay, there's the House 2. 186 people showing up for the Democratic primary versus 8,000 for the Republican primary. I guess that's not a very conservative. That's not a very conservative district there, or very liberal district. It seems like it's probably a very conservative district, whatever. Orville, Chuck Grassley is 9,200 years old. Sounds right. Sounds about white. Let's see. So far, the Iran war has cost at least $25 billion. Good grief, that's almost as much as we give to big oil annually. Yeah, and the war is helping big oil because it's raising the prices of oil, which means oil gets more money. Let's see. Election, 7 incumbents went against him for redistricting. All districts he endorsed have won but one. Fair enough. But again, that's the primaries, though, so we'll have to see what happens in the general election to see whether or not his losing streak continues. Because I think it's generally true that his endorsed candidates have pretty much won a lot of the primary elections that have gone on. It's just when you get to the general elections where they either have lost ground a lot or just lose overall. So, hey, good Triva, good to see you. Thank you for joining. Hey, Marie, thank you for joining as well. I'm very disappointed that whatchamacallit, Atrocious Every Game wasn't here to see the intro to the songs. Anyway, what else is going on today in the news? As of May 4th, yesterday, the U.S. Supreme Court has temporarily restored nationwide access to the abortion pill Mifepristone. Of course, one of the reasons why there was a slight hiccup in the coverage of being able to, write e-scripts or whatever, or have a virtual visit and not an in-person visit to get Mifepristone, was because of Louisiana, wonderful Louisiana, who's always up to all the good things and none of the bad things, right? Yeah. So the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, which again is the most conservative circuit across the country, ruled that there should be required in-person doctor visits and halted mail order access. This order is in effect until at least May 11th. And again, this was Alito that did it, which is a little bit bizarre to me. Alito temporarily paused the appeals court ruling that would have immediately restricted the access. The Fifth Circuit decision ordered reinstatement of a pre-2021 rule requiring in-person visits and banning mail order deliveries. Case centers on a legal challenge initially brought in Louisiana, again, against the FDA's approval of the drug and its subsequent actions to make it more accessible. The Fifth Circuit ruling would have created significant barriers, upending nationwide access to medication abortion. The Supreme Court is reviewing the matter, and the current temporary pause lasts through May 11th. So in 6 days, we will see whether or not, so Monday, we will see if that is extended or if the Supreme Court actually does anything about it. So more on the issue altogether. Again, Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito on Monday put a 1-week hold on major changes to how abortion pills can be prescribed. The ruling temporarily restores nationwide access to the drug used for most medication abortions in the United States. Friday, an appeals court had said that the FDA needed to revert rules that the pills, part of a 2-drug regimen for medication abortion, must be prescribed only in person. Now, this is them writing law, right? I thought conservatives didn't like when the courts wrote law, but I guess this court decided it's going to write law. It's going to be like, we're going to make you go back to a previous policy when the new policy is perfectly fine and made by, experts. Of course, we all know the Supreme Court doesn't like when experts make decisions. They want non-experts in Congress to write those laws and actually give the regulations, when in reality you should allow the experts to actually make the regulations, empower them to do so because of the fact, they're experts in the field and know more about what these drugs are as compared to anybody sitting in the house, or at least most people sitting in the house, with the exception of maybe the doctors. But even the doctors are sometimes a bunch of fucking idiots, especially those that support things like ivermectin for COVID treatment. Because as Hal Sparks says, if you're sick with COVID and you feel better after taking ivermectin, you also had worms. The appeals court meant that Mifepristone could not be prescribed via telehealth or sent via the mail. Alito's order restores the telehealth access for 1 week. The 1 week hold comes as part of a case filed by the state of Louisiana against the FDA. The state's argument centered around the FDA's decision several years ago to remove an in-person requirement for patients to receive Mifepristone. Louisiana argued that telemedicine access to Mifepristone undermines the state almost complete ban on abortions. But here's the thing. You know, you could potentially say, okay, there's an argument to be made that you shouldn't be able to prescribe it to people in Louisiana. Now, of course, I wouldn't make that argument because I support the individual's right to choose and the individual right to have, autonomy. But imagine that. Imagine the courts coming and saying, you can visit a telehealth doctor for anything except for this. Doesn't make sense. Again, why should you allow telehealth for almost every other thing possible that's imaginable, but you can't have telehealth for this? And even if you wanted to, you shouldn't be throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Even if you wanted to say that, fine, in states like Louisiana and in Texas, where you have, these draconian abortion laws that make it damn near impossible to get an abortion, even if your life's in danger, you shouldn't punish the people in the states that have decided that abortion is going to still be a right within the borders of those states and prevent them from getting, the telehealth abortion pills. They should still be able to do it. If you want to make this into a whole, the 10th Amendment ability of the states to be able to write laws about those things that aren't stated in the abortion or aren't stated in the Constitution, like abortion, that was the whole argument behind Dobbs v. Jackson, was that abortion's not written in the Constitution, therefore you can't have federal laws or rulings, it's up to the states to decide. Well, if it's up to the states to decide, then it should be up to the states to decide whether or not they should be able to have, abortion pills, and you shouldn't be able to say, undo this entire ruling, throwing out the baby with the bathwater. Shouldn't be able to undo all of it just because certain states have banned abortion. If you want to say the bans apply to mail order and telehealth, then you can do that. And it sucks for the people in Louisiana. It sucks for the people in Texas who may very well need these pills because, they should have the right to body autonomy. And Dobbs v. Jackson is not very well worded at all. We've covered that here on the show many times, and we've discussed why it's a bad ruling many times, and we've also discussed why the whole abortion isn't written in the Constitution is stupid, because the Ninth Amendment clearly states that you don't have to enumerate rights for them to be protected by the Constitution. There are non-enumerated rights that are protected by the Constitution, and Justice Alito and all the other Republicans, basically everybody except for Roberts on the Supreme Court basically said, fuck you to the Ninth Amendment because they require enumeration of rights, even though the Ninth Amendment clearly does not require the enumeration of rights in order for them to be protected. Simple as that. So again, the 1 week hold comes as a part of a case filed by the state of Louisiana against the FDA. Almost 4 years since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. I can't believe it's been 4 years. Jesus. Telehealth medicine has grown, especially when it comes to abortion. In fact, the big part of the reason why, despite state bans, the overall abortions has actually gone up since 2020. The last year before the end of Roe, for which comprehensive national estimates are available, in 2020, there were about 620,000 abortions reported to the federal government. There were about 1.1 million abortions in 2025. That involved a clinician. By 2022, medication abortions accounted for nearly 2/3 of all abortions in the United States. According to Guttmacher, roughly 1 in 4 abortions were provided via telehealth. By the end of 2024, 7 million patients. The FDA has found Mifepristone to be safe, and the medication has been used by more than 7 million patients in the United States since it was first approved in 2000, in combination with Mifepristone, a medication that's also used to treat ulcers, hemorrhage, and the insertion of IUD. Mifepristone is approved in the U.S. to end pregnancies up to 10 weeks of gestation. On Friday, the Fifth Circuit, based in New Orleans, issued a 19-page order. It was written by Judge Stuart Kyle Duncan, who was, of course, appointed by President Trump. Duncan wrote that telemedicine access to Mifepristone injures Louisiana by undermining its laws protecting unborn human life and also by causing it to spend Medicaid funds on emergency care for women harmed by Mifepristone. Both injuries are irreparable. Now, that's stupid because Medicaid should have to be spent, on anybody who's in an emergency, regardless of what the emergency is. So if somebody went and got a back alley abortion, because that's all you can have left here in Louisiana, if somebody went and got a back alley abortion, and then they had an issue and had to go to the emergency room, guess what? The emergency room would have to cover that too, and Medicaid would have to cover that too. So fuck off with all that shit. That's a whole bunch of bullshit right there. You absolutely need to make sure that, what are you going to say now? That if somebody is shown to have, to be gotten an illegal abortion, that they can't use Medicaid funds to help fix it? What fucking bullshit's that? But again, just because Louisiana may have laws that illogically protect the unborn human life, doesn't mean that we should be punishing all other states where abortion is still legal, and telling them that they can't utilize telehealth medicine. But again, they're throwing out the baby with the bathwater, ironically enough. Duncan ruled the FDA needed to impose rules that were in place in 2022 that required Mifepristone to be prescribed and given in person, with no parameters limiting the change to Louisiana or setting a time for it to be implemented. It was immediately in effect for all states. The two companies that make Mifepristone, Danco Laboratories and Gen BioPro, quickly appealed directly to the Supreme Court for an emergency relief. Alito, who responds to such requests for the Fifth Circuit, granted that relief on Monday morning. Alito blocked the appeals court decision from going into effect until next Monday. Alito also asked all the parties in the ongoing lawsuit to file briefs by Thursday, May 7th at 5 p.m. So, yeah. So we're going to be dealing with that over the course of the next week. And, again, Louisiana done fucked up by electing Republicans and putting them into office. And Louisianans and Texans and everywhere else where such draconian abortion bans are in place, unfortunately, the people living here, we're going to have to deal with that bullshit. And the people who are affected by these laws, aka those who are capable of getting pregnant but end up getting pregnant either in an unsafe way or just in an unwanted way, those people are screwed by the rules. But we shouldn't be screwing the people in California, New York, Illinois, Washington State, Oregon, or anywhere else where abortion rights are still, protected, with a stupid ass ruling that again throws the baby out with the bathwater. It's absolutely fucking ridiculous. But that's what these conservatives are. These conservatives on the bench, they always talk about, the liberal activist court. No, the most activist judicial folks in the court system are Republican and conservatives and MAGA types, or whatever you want to call them. All of those people are the most activist, jurists out there. Edgewalker69 says, isn't that like spending all your money on candy and then using that as an excuse to go rob a store because otherwise you won't eat? No, it's not like that at all. But really, all along, you knew that buying candy was a bad idea. Now you selfishly demand others pay or you commit a crime. That's a narcissistic extortion, it seems to me. I don't quite get or agree with your logic there at all. Because again, this is not, something where it's like spending all your money. No. If you spend all your money on candy or whatever, well, in Louisiana, you can't do that because Louisiana has significantly prohibited the people. But again, what cases do you think that where there are people that are spending all your money on candy and as such now you have to go rob a store to go make up for the fact you don't have other food? I mean, I don't see that happening, whereas you do have situations where people who need abortions can't get them. And if you have a life-threatening pregnancy, and a doctor says, this pregnancy is a life-threatening pregnancy and you need to be able to abort it immediately, you have attorneys general in Louisiana and Texas and other states that have put forth these draconian abortion laws that are basically going to say, no, we can't listen to the doctor when the doctor says that if allowed to continue, that these pregnancies are going to harm the people that they're in, they're futile. Like in the case of Kate Cox, who had a situation where she was leaking amniotic fluid. If her pregnancy was allowed to continue, she was going to potentially get sepsis. And what Ken Paxton was trying to do is basically try and force her to have to get sepsis in order for her to be able to get treatment. Why would you force somebody to get that sick in order to get treatment? The pregnancy was done with. The pregnancy was over with. There was no way they were going to be able to save the fetus. But because they still had a heart beating, even though it was, doomed, Paxson comes in and overrides the doctors and say, you know what, she can't save her own life, which required her to then go to another state, go to Colorado, I think it was, to go then get the needed procedure for her own health and safety. So what happens if somebody isn't as capable, isn't as able to go and travel to Colorado to be able to get the needed surgery to save their own lives, and instead they have to go find somebody to do it in a not so safe way, like underground or whatever? Yeah, then that person, if that person ends up, having a problem, having a complication because of the abortion, when maybe it wasn't done in a sterile location, maybe the abortion, I don't know. I don't know what maybe it was one of those, dirty dancing type situations where somebody had to go run and get an abortion and then they were, sick because they went to some butcher, as they say it in the movie or whatever, instead of going to an actual doctor who could perform this procedure with no issue. Then yeah, that person should be able to go to the hospital and should be able to use their Medicaid funds to be able to get the treatment. Because there are laws in place that say emergency rooms are required to save the lives of people, including when it comes to abortion. If an abortion is going to save the person's life, then an emergency room by federal law is required to do so. And any state law that tells somebody that they can't save their own goddamn lives not only is immoral, unethical, but it also should be considered unconstitutional and illegal. Because the supremacy clause of the Constitution says the federal law trumps it. And no state should be able to prevent you from being able to save your own damn life. The whole argument behind the Second Amendment that people make is that everybody should be able to save their own damn lives. You shouldn't be able to hold a gun or whatever. You shouldn't be able to own any sort of weapons that you can use to protect your own life from a threat to your life. So they'll say that with an intruder coming into your house, but they won't say that for an abortion, for a pregnancy that's going to kill you if you allow it to happen. You have to to compare the two. Let's say you had, for example, somebody was breaking into your house. According to the logic of Ken Paxton that he used on abortions, when it comes to when you can take action to save your own life, according to Paxton, you can't shoot somebody as they're crawling into the window. You can't just assume that the person coming into your house with a gun, masked, not knocking, uninvited, you have to assume that that person is not going to kill you, and therefore you can't use deadly force until the person actually threatens you literally, or maybe starts firing at you or whatever. Then you could, according to the Ken Paxton logic of abortion, you'd be able to do that. But of course, conservatives would never argue that. Conservatives would say if you're crawling through a window, if somebody's crawling through your window or breaking through your window with a gun, you have every right to shoot them. And guess what? I agree. If somebody's breaking into my house and I have the means to protect myself, you shouldn't have to wait for them to be a threat to you. You should be able to defend yourself and defend your family. And the same thing should apply with abortions. If your loved one is under risk of a health issue because a failing pregnancy is going to cause them harm if allowed to continue, then they should be able to get those abortions in this, and the Republicans should not be able to come in and step in and say, nope, you can't do it, and we're going to punish the doctors that do it. You shouldn't have to force somebody to wait until they're on their deathbed in order to be able to get a goddamn abortion. So I absolutely, 100% reject your argument there, Edgewalker or Edgelord or whatever your name is. Are you surprised at what happens when you put a penis in a vagina? No, I'm not. But guess what? Sometimes people don't have a choice, A, in whether or not they are getting pregnant because, rapes happen. And B, in the case that I'm talking about with Kate Cox and her husband wanted a baby. They purposely put tab A into slot B, so to speak, to be able to have a child because they wanted a child. But biology said, fuck you. We don't want, you're not going to have a child this time. And guess what? Ken Paxton would have let her die. They wanted this kid. Most third trimester abortions, all third trimester abortions are done not because of choice, but because these people wanted a baby but are no longer able to have one because the pregnancy is failing. So please get your argument straight, and please try and be a little consistent, Edgelord, on what's going on here, because we weren't talking about abortions for choice when it comes to the Kate Cox decision or Kate Cox issue. We're talking about abortions that are required to save a person's life. A lot of these people will use idiotic religious arguments as to say why we should have and we should not have any laws based on, pure religion. But if you want to look at religion, all you have to do is look at Judaism. Judaism requires an abortion in that case. Abortion considers the case when a person's life is in danger. Judaism treats that person as a pursuer, or as the Hebrew word is, a rodef, somebody who is the pursuing you, and you are allowed to kill a pursuer who's coming to harm you. So Jewish law would say both. You could kill somebody who's trying to break into your house by breaking your window or whatever. You can take them out and you can protect yourself, as soon as that's happening. And Jewish law would also say that if a pregnancy is a risk to your health or life, that you are also able to have an abortion. Actually, Jewish law requires you to have an abortion. But again, I don't believe we should have laws based simply on religion. So therefore, I don't think anybody should be required to get an abortion either. But I think if you have a condition where your life is in danger, where your physical health is in danger, and it's because of the pregnancy, and you should be able to, deal with that pregnancy and remove the pregnancy, and immediately as it's determined that it's going to be a threat to your health, a threat to your life. End of story. And to not support that is immoral and unethical. But then again, most conservatives, especially conservatives men, don't view women anything more as breeding cattle. Women are only there to be, vessels for their sexual desires and to carry children and to raise them. That's what women are for in the minds of many conservative folks out there, especially conservative politicians. And Edgelord goes, so you can use protection, no? Why would Kate Cox and her husband use protection? They were trying to have a baby. But biology said, fuck you. And then Ken Paxton said, fuck you to them too. So I don't know where the hell you're coming up with this bullshit. Edge, I'm pro-abortion in the cases of rape and incest. Well, these laws aren't. The Texas law, the Louisiana law, and all the other laws that are drafted that are similarly worded to them, none of them allow for abortion for rape. None of them allow for abortion for incest. So now they've gone above and beyond. Are you going to speak out against those laws? Are you going to say those laws are wrong? Or are you going to advocate for those laws to be changed so that they allow people who are raped or victims of incest to be able to have their pregnancies terminated and get abortions? Are you going to do it for them too? Or no? Are you going to not speak up and say that? Because, it really doesn't matter to you. You might give it lip service and say, oh, well, it should be rape and incest, sure. No, but you're not doing that, are you? See, Jen goes, like Latin Texas, if they cross your doorstep or your windows, you can kill the motherfucker. Exactly, and you should also be able to kill the motherfucker, the pregnancy that's inside you, if it's going to threaten your life, threaten your health, or whatever. Of course, Edgelord over there in Twitch changes the discussion. What about Islamists marrying their cousins? Does that count as incest? What about people in Alabama or people in Arkansas or people in West Virginia marrying their cousins as well? I mean, you had people who were trying to keep cousin marriage legal. It wasn't the Muslims that were trying to do it. It was the people in West Virginia who was trying to argue that you should be able to still marry your cousin. And the people in West Virginia and in Alabama and in Arkansas that were making all these types of arguments. I'm not sure exactly if Arkansas was one of those laws, but there are plenty of laws where they were trying to ban cousin marriage, and guess what? The people who were opposed to it were the Republicans who were opposed to it because, that's a redneck hick sort of thing to do. You don't have to go looking and try and make accusations about what Muslims may or may not be doing to promote the racist idea that, that Ilhan Omar is supposedly married to her cousin or her brother or whatever the fuck conspiracy theory you want to put out about these people because you don't like them because you're an anti-Islamic bigot. A bunch of the people are just anti-Islamic bigots and they just want to, spread rumors about people that they know nothing about. But, let's see. Unhinged. What's unhinged there, Edgelord? Jennifer says, my sister had a miscarriage and couldn't get a DNC because the new law, which is a procedure that clears out your uterus. If you don't get it done, it can cause sepsis. So she was literally trying to have a baby, was less than 8 to 10 weeks pregnant, and they would not do the procedure to help keep her from getting her life in danger. Or Ted Nugent adopting his child lover because incest isn't illegal in that state. I argued that the Jews have to save their own lives because that is an example of, y'all like to bring up Judeo-Christian values, or many conservatives at least like to bring up Judeo-Christian values. And guess what? There's no such thing, because there's so many differences between the laws of Judaism and the laws of Christianity that the whole Judeo-Christian idea is completely 100% meaningless. But the reason I brought up it is because all these people who are Christians are trying to bring up Christian law to say that, oh, this is, it's immoral and unethical to kill a baby because we think that the baby is a baby from the moment that the sperm enters the egg and creates an embryo. But that's Christianity. That's people who are Christians who are saying that. It's not Jewish people who, Christians retcon Judaism, because Judaism requires an abortion. And again, I don't believe that we should be requiring abortions by anybody. If you want to take that risk, if you want to allow the condition to go to a certain point where, you risk death, if you think that strongly, if you feel that strongly about your religious convictions, let's say you were a parent of two people, you were trying to have a third kid, and all of a sudden the pregnancy is causing problems with you. If you want to risk your own damn life and allow your kids to be motherless, because you don't want them to get an abortion, because it might still have a heartbeat, well, guess what? That's your right to do so as an American citizen. It's your right to be able to take that risk upon yourself if you so desire to do so. But it should not be the government should not have the authority to step in and say, no, you're not allowed to save your own life. And that's what these laws do. And these people have been pushing these laws all the live long day, and y'all just don't want to see it. Y'all will sit here and say, oh, well, that's the law right now, so it is what it is, I guess, right? Wait, liberal Dan is showing the Twitch whatever on the screen. What? Oh, yeah, the chat. The chat from Twitch is coming from the Twitch and the YouTube chats come in. So you see you see the over there. It won't be that way. You see, like, this one is a YouTube comment. This one is a Twitch comment. As you can see, the YouTube and Twitch logo is there. Anyway, so exactly, Ponder Monkey. There's no birth control that's 100% effective. There is no whatever. There is absolutely no form of contraception that is 100% effective. There is no method of preventing pregnancies that are 100% effective, except for maybe getting, a hysterectomy. But when young women want a hysterectomy, doctors will be like, well, what if your future husband wants to have a kid? Don't you want to be able to? Fuck your future husband. The fact that people are still asking that, the fact that people who are young women who have decided that they don't want to have kids, that they want to be childless, and they want to just get everything scooped out of there, it's none of the business of what some hypothetical future husband. The funniest, and I say funniest with tongue in cheek, the funniest stories about that are like when a young lesbian woman goes in and wants to get a hysterectomy because they're never going to want to have a kid, because they're never going to want to breed with somebody who could provide them with semen, I guess, because they only want, this is kind of cisnormative or whatever, but let's say they would just, they're attracted to women, they don't want to have anything to do with anybody that might have a penis, right? So, and then you tell the lesbian, what if your future husband want? Well, they're never just going to be a future husband because they're lesbian. They're a lesbian. They're, never going to want to do that in the first place. Now, if they want to have a sperm donor at some place, that should be fine too. But again, it should be none of the doctor's business. It should be absolutely none of the doctor's business as to what somebody's future husband might say. Edgewalker. So you have to respect the Jews and the Muslims, not the Christians? Is that what you think I said? Is that what you think I said? Because that's not what I said. I said that, if you're, in fact, I said the opposite. I literally said, if your religion tells you that you need to risk your own life for the pregnancy, then by all means risk your life. Follow your own religion. Follow your own faith. Just like I said to, the Jewish people, if their religion tells them that they must get an abortion in such cases, then they should be allowed to do it that way. But they should not, what should not be allowed to happen is they should not allow a Jewish law that says you must get an abortion if your life's in danger. You should not push that on anybody else. That should not be part of state law. That should not be part of federal law. No law should require you to follow Jewish rules, just like no law should require you to follow Christian rules, just like no law should require you to follow Muslim rules, or any other religious belief for that matter. If you want to follow your own rules, fine. But what does God need with a government? God doesn't need your government to do things. If you believe that God will punish you for doing these things that you think are sins, let God punish you. Let God do it. And that the secular laws that we have should only be involving, preventing harm from one person to another. What y'all advocate for, what you conservatives advocate for, is to say that not only should you be able to follow your own religion for yourselves, but you want to push your religion on other people and use the power of government to do so. And that's unhinged. Yeah, Leviticus says you're not to mix your streams. Now, that was Ghostbusters that says don't cross the streams, not Leviticus. Ponder Monkey, I believe the person existed, nothing more divine about any other man. Jesus is a Roman mythology. DB Golding, except giving women an aspirin for pregnancy control, it needs to be held tightly between their knees. Well, that's what, that's a lot of times what Christians tend to believe. I guess, I don't know. So what do we do when Jews' religion says one thing, Muslims say another, and Christians say a third thing? How to resolve the dispute in terms of law? It's simple. You don't pass laws that are based on any of the religions. You just pass laws that prevent harm from one person to the other person or one entity to another entity. Because that's the role of government, is to prevent people or is to protect people and entities from other people and entities. So it's that simple. I don't want to push a law that says you can't eat bacon, but Jews want to say for themselves, we don't want to eat bacon. And if you're an observant Jew, I'm not, but I love bacon, but if you're an observant Jew, you should be able to follow your own rules freely. Nobody should force you to eat pork, and you should not be able to force anybody to not eat pork who doesn't want to eat pork. To me, it's that simple. But then again, Donald Trump did say he loved the poorly educated after the 2016 Nevada primaries. So, since Donald Trump did say that he loved the poorly educated after the 2016 Nevada primaries, many conservatives have since then been trying on the daily to prove themselves worthy of that love. Lather, rinse, repeat. Treva, welcome. Good to see you. Thank you for coming. Hey, not in your name. I used to have a bumper sticker, among others, that said, don't believe in abortions, don't have one. Exactly. We have license plates here in Louisiana, and I really haven't done this yet, and I really want to do it. But we have license plates here in Louisiana that says choose life on them. And I really want to roll down my window, and I want to be like, hey, I wanted to thank you for having that license plate on your car, because I think it's really great that you admit that it should be a choice. You admit there should be a choice, right? So that's what Choose Life says. You admit that there should be a choice. And if you want to advocate for people to make the choice to not have an abortion, by all means do so. And by all means make it easier for people to have to decide, the people who are dealing with financial issues, people dealing with, the healthcare issues, if you want to make sure that they don't have any burdens on themselves and make it easier for somebody to have a kid who might not be able to do something, by all means, help them out. There are other countries where the pro-life groups will go, by the abortion clinics, and they will stand out and they will hand pamphlets out and be like, hey, if you want help in having this kid, if you want a support network in having this kid, we will give you whatever it is that you need so that you make the decision to not have this abortion. If all that's preventing you from going through with your pregnancy is a financial reason or maybe some other reason that's not like health related or whatever, then we will help you with those things. But they won't stand in the way and prevent people from doing it. I think the rules in those countries over there in Europe don't allow that to happen to begin with. I think it might be Denmark, but I'm not sure. I could be remembering that one wrong. That being said, we should, again, I'm fine with that, but, still, if somebody doesn't want to risk the health risks that come with every pregnancy, then they should not be required to take those risks. And you would say, well, do you know how sex works? Yeah, I know how sex works. A lot of people know how sex works. And contraception, birth control pills aren't 100% effective. Condoms aren't 100% effective. The pull-out method's not 100% effective. There are plenty of things that are not 100% effective. And if you want to live under this puritanical idea that sex is only for the creation of children, then that's you, and you should be free to have your beliefs, and you should then only be breeding with people or having sex with people who hold your belief system. But then again, don't be mad at them if they change their mind after the fact because they decide, oh, I really don't want to be pregnant in the first place. I have a friend of mine, somebody who I'm still friends with till this day, and she was very adamant when we were in high school about that she was pro-life, that she was against abortion, that she would never, never, ever have an abortion. She couldn't understand why I was pro-choice, why I supported the right of somebody to have an abortion for whatever reason they might want to have an abortion. And then I came home from college one year, and we talked on the phone. And she was like scared to talk to me. I was like, what's the problem? What's wrong? She's like, you're going to be mad at me. I'm like, why would I be mad at you? Just talk to me. You're my friend. Let's have this conversation. And she said, the first time she had sex, first time she got pregnant. And what did she do? She had an abortion. Why? Because she wasn't ready to have a pregnancy. So therefore she wasn't ready. So she went ahead and had the abortion. I was like, I'm not mad at you. You had your certain worldview based on certain things that you thought were true, and then when faced with the realities, you decided, okay, I'm going to be, I now have to make this decision. So again, as I say, every guy that I know who is pro-life, who doesn't think abortions are okay, just make for damn sure that you're not having sex with anybody who disagrees with you. But you shouldn't be able to force your views on other people. Imagine if Biden were 1 hour late to the show Dan has been hyping for weeks. I know, man, right?
Had Biden done it, my go would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would flip. Had Biden done it, the screen fell play. But Trump did it, so it must be okay.
Let's see. Edgewalker. He's arguing that his moral position is superior and forcing others to accept it and fund it. What I wasn't saying that I didn't necessarily make the argument that abortion should be funded. Now, if there's an abortion that's going to save somebody's life and that person is on Medicaid, then absolutely it should be funded. I will absolutely argue that if you are using Medicaid or Medicare or TRICARE or some other form of government-funded health plan and you have a life-threatening pregnancy that's going to risk your life, then absolutely they should fund it. I'm not necessarily saying they should fund, the ones that are done for choice. We can have that discussion. I've not made that argument yet today. Now, I would support more funding to be made available for abortion coverage because I reject the silly notion that, again, like when it comes to, let's roll it back to the discussion. A lot of people didn't like the Affordable Care Act because the Affordable Care Act didn't include things like, it did include things like, coverage of preventive care, which included oral contraception. And there are people who, for some stupid reason, believe that birth control pills are abortifacients. They're not, but they believe that they are. And they were saying, well, we shouldn't have to pay for it if we disagree with it. And there's always been the argument here of when I pay for a benefit, or if I have employer-based health coverage, and that employer-based health coverage is required to cover birth control pills, it's not the job that's paying for the health coverage. It's not the job. It's my labor that's paying for that health coverage. My labor pays for my salary, and my labor pays for every single one of my benefits. And that's why they're paying me an overall compensation package. Some of that might show up on the paycheck, some of it might not show up on the paycheck, but regardless, that is my labor paying for it. And just like you shouldn't be able to tell me how I could spend my dollars on my paycheck, you shouldn't be able to tell me how I spend my benefits on that paycheck either. And my tax dollars do pay for my own, health coverage. And yes, my health coverage is paid, my tax dollars pays for other people's health coverages as well. But my tax dollars pay for a lot of things that I disagree with. Unnecessary bombing of Iran, for example. My tax dollars pay for that. My tax dollars pay for the killing of many, many people that I would disagree with. My tax dollars paid for the murder of Renee Nicole Good. My tax dollars paid for the killing of Alex Preddy. My tax dollars shouldn't have to go to that, right? If I disagree with government murdering people, should my tax dollars go to that? So don't sit here and pick and choose and tell me my tax dollars shouldn't have to go and pay for abortions. My tax dollars shouldn't have to go to pay for wars for oil. My tax dollars shouldn't get to go for ridiculous novelty projects like paying for $1 billion for security for the president's, vanity ballroom project. My tax dollars should go to many, many things that I disagree with. So you know what? I'll simply say to all of y'all complaining about taxpayer funds going to abortions, fuck y'all. Y'all don't argue about anything else when it comes to that. You're all just worried about abortion. So you know what? If my tax dollars have to pay for things that I don't like, then your tax dollars have to pay for things that you don't like. Fucking deal with it. Life's tough. Get a fucking helmet, as Dennis Leary once said, right? Let's see, I don't think even Dan addressed the subject by federal law. No federal dollar can go towards abortion. That's the Hyde Amendment, but if you want to say funds are fungible, fine. We've had a lot of shit. We go, hey, me and a trusted every game are just like this. So, arguably, you are denying the autonomy of the unborn child. No, on no person. Let's say you want to give full personhood benefits to an unborn, to a fetus, to an embryo. Let's say that's what you want to do. Right? Let's say you want to do that. No person can use the body of another person without continuous consent. If I agree to have sex with somebody else or somebody else agrees to have sex with me or whatever, I can withdraw consent at any time. I can freely say, I don't feel like consenting anymore. Let's stop. And we have to stop. I can't, and if you say you want us to stop, I can't say, well, you already consented to it, so therefore we have to continue. No. If you want to stop, then we stop. If you say stop, we stop. Simple as that. And you do it immediately. That's what consent's about. And the moment you don't want any person to use your body, then they have to stop using your body. So if you want to grant full personhood to an embryo or to a fetus, the same should apply. And the embryo or fetus should not be able to use your body without your consent either. And I guarantee you, if men could get pregnant, or if cis men could get pregnant, I could say, because trans men can. But if cis men can, could get pregnant, we would have abortion clinics on every fucking corner. You'd be able to drive through a McDonald's and order a Mick abortion. Because they couldn't handle a pregnancy. They would not be happy whatsoever. So, Hey, Cosmic Rose, good to see you. Yeah, Ponder, cancer is life too. Exactly. And sometimes life is a cancer. Trust a different game. If men can get pregnant, abortion be a sacrament from Gloria Steinem. Yep. Yeah, 250 come. Supersize my abortion. Yeah, give me a milkshake because I would like a Mick abortion and a McFlurry and a McDouble. And some fries, right? Would you like fries with that? Oh, sure, I'll have some fries with that. A side of fries with my Mifepristone and Mifepristone. So, Ponder Monkey, Edgewalker, what is a baby? I like that question. That's a great question. I haven't even paid much attention to the YouTube chat. I'm sorry, YouTube, for neglecting y'all, but I just have had more people, more things to respond to in a negative way over there on Twitch. So, Lord, I apologize. Steve, you know what? As UKer, if a UKer is in US and needs a hospital, RNHS pays for it, free for us. When it happens, we don't get charged when we get home. Interesting. That's good to see. Yeah, exactly. Not in my name. My tax dollars shouldn't go for prayer services at the Pentagon. Exactly. Plenty of things that our tax dollars go to that we here on Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left, That's Right, would not agree with. What is the cutoff? When does it stop being a cancer and start being a human, in your opinion? Asking this to Ponder Monkey, but I'll say this myself. There is no actual heartbeat. People says that the heartbeat starts earlier, but the actual full heart is not fully developed. It's just like a pumping blood vessel, at 8 weeks or whatever it is. Like, it's not an actual full-blown heart. And when you hear the when you hear that sound when you go to the ultrasound, that is not the actual sound of the heart beating. That is the interpretation of the ultrasound. When the ultrasound gets the electronic pulses, that is the interpretation of the electronic pulses that are happening from the blood vessel. So it's not the literal sound of a heart that's going on. But, you know, 99.5% of all abortions take place before the 21st or 22nd week, before viability. Most abortions are taking place like, you know, the 8 to 10 week range. The only people that are waiting to get abortions until the 3rd trimester, until after 22 weeks or so, are the people who aren't actually waiting for an abortion. They're the people who want to have a child, like the Kate Coxes of the world. There are people who want to, you know, bring life into the world, who want to have another baby, but yet for some reason, biology decided that, nope, this is not the time for you to have a baby. And if Kate Cox would have been forced to carry until she got sepsis, she might have died. And I believe that she already gave birth to her next baby, her rainbow baby, I think is what it's called, when you have a baby after having a miscarriage and or an abortion. You know, when you have a miscarriage and you have a baby afterwards, that's a lot. I think it's called a rainbow child or whatever. So if Kate Cox would have been forced to risk her own damn life and she would have died, they would have never had that new baby in their lives. But now they were able to have a baby, and it turned out to be healthy as far as I know. Why? Because she was able to go to Colorado and get the life-saving procedure that she needed. So, Edgewalker, detectable brainwave activity in unborn child because early rudimentary electrical activity doesn't mean the synapses are fully fired. It doesn't mean they're autonomous. You take out you deliver somebody at 5 to 6 weeks after conception. Guess what? That's not going to survive. It's just going to be a little bit of goo in the toilet. That's all that's going to be there. A little bit of goo in the toilet. That's all. Nothing else. Let's see. My mom had to go to a hospital there on a holiday. Our country pays the bill, no problem. Fair enough. I mean, you're talking to Monkey, but I'm going to respond to what you're saying because I see what you're typing. One of John Fugelsang's best line was, the last thing my father told me before he died, my father, the brother, was there are 2 things God can't do. He can't stop loving you and he can't stop forgiving you. This is my religion. It has been between a woman and her doctor, or you prefer between a woman and her God. And it should be. That's exactly what it should be. And yeah, the first breath of life comment, and that's Jewish. Judaism doesn't consider an infant to be, you know, a full human until after birth. Until you actually, ensoulment takes place on the first breath. That's what Judaism believes. Now, Christianity believes ensoulment takes place on fertilization, but, you know, 30 to 40% of all fertilized eggs don't even implant under natural circumstances. And that's a conservative estimate. So that's a lot of waste of souls of those embryos just failing to implant. Like, I've made this point before too, but I think you deserve to hear it there, Edgewalker. Simple as this. If 30 to 40% of all embryos, again, conservative estimate, are discarded from the start and never even implant to the uterine wall. Just done. Not even thinking about birth control pills, not even thinking about other forms of contraception that would prevent a pregnancy from happening. Just regular old embryos that are created are just discarded naturally. 30 to 40%. If an embryo was really the same thing as a born baby, if you really believe that it's the same thing, then why on earth would you ever create one? Because if I put a baby in a situation where they had a 30 to 40% chance of dying, that would be reckless endangerment of a child. That would be criminal child endangerment. I would be sent away to prison for putting my child at that much risk. So if you really believe that embryos are the full same old thing as a born child, then you should never be trying to create one because you're putting them in a situation where, you know, 30, 40% chance that they might die. And that's a terrible thing for you to do to a baby. Right? Yeah, Big Hook. Remember when Ohio, where they refused to exercise a miscarriage DNC and the lady had it in the toilet and the state charged her with, guess what the color of her skin was? I have faith you can guess which, you bigot. Exactly, because they're going to use these laws to punish black people, but they'll conveniently find ways to, you know, ignore it when it happens to a white woman, right? What do you think of the Abortion on Demand Until Birth Act? I believe that there should be all abortion should be legal without exception. Period. All abortions should be legal without exception. Because again, before 22 weeks, 99.5% of all abortions take place, and that's before viability. After 22 weeks, the only abortions that are taking place are the abortions to save the life and the health of the woman, or the patient, I should say. If you're sitting there and you're facing a life-threatening pregnancy, there should be nothing in your way that stops you from doing that. And if you're at like 24 weeks, you're not going to have an abortion if it's not a life-threatening pregnancy, because you want the child. Because that was the purpose. That's the reason why you let it get to 24 weeks in the first place. So yeah, there should be nothing in the way. The only regulations that should be there should be the same regulation in any other surgical facility. If you have a surgical facility and you want to have regulations on cleanliness standards, then by all means put some cleanliness standards on it. Make sure that the place has to be sterile, just like any other place that will perform any other medical procedure. That's fine. That's reasonable. But when it comes to, regulating when abortions should take place, fuck it. There should be no regulations on when abortions can take place, because before viability, I don't give a shit. And after viability, the only people getting it are people who are, having health risks with their pregnancies, and as such, I don't give a shit, because they should be able to save their own damn lives. And if you don't believe that somebody should be able to save their own damn lives when it comes to a non-viable pregnancy, or even if it's a viable pregnancy that puts the person at risk, guess what? If you think that person shouldn't be able to save their own lives, then you're a hypocrite if you then believe people should be able to own guns to save their own lives. If you think that somebody should be able to save their own lives from one position but not another, then you're a goddamn hypocrite. You need to rethink your values. You need to rethink the way you think things. You need to rethink your life in general. So anyway, we talked about pregnancy much longer than I expected to do. Taxpayer funded. Let's see. Oh yeah, first time chat ban. Sorry. See, we allow conservatives in the chat. We don't allow spammers in the chat. See, I think people can take responsibility for their own sexual conduct, and they know the risk of sex and should suffer the negative Damn. You consider a pregnancy to be a negative consequence? It doesn't say a lot for your views on the embryos, does it? That's kind of weird. If you think it's a negative consequence. So, anywho. Let me go find this one thing real quick, because even though I'm not going to play the whole thing until later, I'm not going to play the whole thing later, but is this it? Maybe I can find it over here, because I don't think I edited this one at all. Because this is the one I wanted you to see. I don't necessarily know if it's here or not, but where is it? Trying to find it. It's not there. Oh, we've gone way too far past it. There we go. Oh, it expires in 4 days. That's fine. We'll bring it up here. Let's go over to downloads. We'll play the full 4 videos later. But we are going to play we are going to play this for Atrocious at Every Game, because I immediately was thinking of him this whole time when I made this video. So here you go, Atrocious at Every Game.
Trump piled debt, trillions tall. Promised Mexico would fund our wall. Praised dictators if they're strong. Had Joe done it, they'd say he's wrong. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they'd scream foul play. But Trump did it, so it must be okay. Golf through crisis, storms and more. Called soldiers losers who died in war.
Kim Jong-un, he wrote love letters that take the guns first, lose those rights forever. Signed huge spending bills with glee. Had Joe done that, it'd be tyranny. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, poll numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they scream not today, but Trump did it, so it must be okay. Kept secret files, countless untold. Said Putin's word was good as gold. Invited the Taliban to come to U.S. soil. If Joe had done that, they'd all recoil. They all recoil. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, poll numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they'd want him to pay. The Trump did it, so it must be okay. Double standards loud and clear. Rules for Trump, but not for peers. What they call treason if Joe's the name is patriotism when Donald's to blame. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, poll numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they shout no way. But Trump did it, so it must be okay.
Anyway. Oh, wait, there's a little bit of little end music there at the end. Anyway, that is the Had Biden Done It Cinco de Mayo version. So, so which one do you like better, Atrocious at Every Game? Do you like the Cinco de Mayo mariachi version, or do you like the other version, the techno version? Which one do you like more? That's what I want to know. There's four of them. We started, and I'll play them on the way out as well. I will play all four of them again on the way out, just so y'all can, anybody who missed it at the beginning will get to see it at the end. I'm not sure how often I'll play that version versus the other versions. Maybe I'll do it in Hispanic Heritage Month or whatever, the one that starts like the 15th to the 15th. James, like, both are cool. See, do we need 8 billion? 8 billion for what? Let's see. Seems to me entire culture and relationship between men and women is broken. If your society does not naturally reproduce itself, then clearly something's wrong. Would you agree? So do you agree, Edgewalker, then, with the idea that Fox News rose up, that Fox News discussed, that basically complained about how young women from the ages of 15 to 19 are not getting pregnant? Like, do you think that young women between the ages of 15 and 19 not getting pregnant is a big issue facing us? That Fox News is right in raising concerns that 15 to 19-year-olds are not having enough kids? Do you believe that sends off warning sirens to you, or do you think that Fox News is a little bit ridiculous for complaining that 15-year-olds aren't having enough kids? Again, people should be having kids if they feel like they can have kids, if they feel like they can afford it, if they feel like they're okay with taking the risks that come along with pregnancies. Like, that's when people should do it. And maybe if y'all supported things like a living wage, if y'all supported things like universal health care, if y'all supported a system that would be, at least give a floor of what everybody can have, so that if somebody is pregnant, that they're not facing financial ruin, then maybe more people would opt to get pregnant. But you create a system that creates so much chaos. The conservative system that believes in whole trickle-down bullshit, the conservative system that wants to go create instability in markets with Donald Trump because, we're going to have tariffs. No, we're not going to have tariffs. Oh, we're not going to have tariffs. Oh, we're not going to have tariffs. Oh, these tariffs are unconstitutional, so therefore we're going to refund the businesses that pay the tariffs, but not refund the people who paid the tariffs because they paid higher prices for the goods and services that they bought because of the tariffs. And those businesses aren't going to give discounts to their customers. No, they're not whatsoever. So you're just basically giving those tariff refunds just a giveaway of our tax dollars to those businesses. And then, of course, we bomb for frickin' oil, and we're dealing with the Strait of Hormuz. And now oil prices, because oil is a global commodity, have shot up. So now it becomes even harder. Now, Donald Trump's never had to worry about that in a day in his life because Donald Trump doesn't face those issues that the common man, the working class person, has to deal with. So all he cares about is manipulating the markets in such a way that they can either make money off of Poly Market or one of those other betting type sites, or they can just bet on the stock market and say, okay, well, we know we're going to, invade Iran, so let's short all of these or get rid or sell all of our oil now, or buy it now, and then cause Iran, Iran causes oil shortages to take place, so the price of oil goes up. Then you sell, and then you say, okay, we're gonna pull back. We're gonna agree to a peace deal. We're gonna negotiate some sort of peace deal, so the price of oil goes down. So you sell it before it goes down, and then you say, okay, well, we're not gonna we've had enough of Iran. We're gonna go attack them again. Price of oil goes up, but of course you bought the oil commodities beforehand, so you manipulate the markets, because that's what Donald Trump does. He is manipulating the markets for the benefit of himself, his family, and his other rich cronies, to the detriment of the American taxpayer, to the detriment of the American working class, to the detriment of the people. Many of the people who voted for him, who plainly don't care that their groceries are up, that their gasoline prices are going up, because they just look at Donald Trump's bigotry and like, well, this is just what's necessary to get the bigotry that we want enacted as federal policy. Simple as that. See, living wage, single-payer health care, over-the-counter free, read taxpayer-funded contraceptive, abortion would be safe, legal, and rare. I'm not saying rare to stigmatize it, but if contraceptives are readily available, there would be objectively fewer abortions. Yeah, exactly. And look, when I had the old Dan and Dave on the air, Talk from the Left, that's right, back on the WGSO radio station, exactly same place where Jeff Carrera has his show, when we had our show there, Fridays, every Friday, once a week or whatever, we basically were like, okay, we had one of the former presidents, I think it was of Now, I think she was president of Now at the time, and we all basically agreed abortions should be safe, legal, and rare. But they shouldn't be forbidden. They shouldn't be restricted. They shouldn't be, we should be preventing abortion otherwise. Here's what people like conservatives and people, I'm not going to assume that you don't understand this sort of thing, Edgewalker, but you support the people who don't understand this. Back when Jeb Bush was governor of Florida, he partially defunded, or I should say he defunded, because defunding doesn't mean you remove all funds, it just removes some funds. It could be all, but he defunded Planned Parenthood in the state, which caused rural Planned Parenthood clinics, sometimes those places were the only places that anyone could go to get any sort of prenatal care and to get any sort of help in preventing pregnancies in the first place. With those clinics shut down, unwanted abortions went up in Florida, and as such, the abortion rate rose after Jeb Bush defunded Planned Parenthood. John Hickenlooper, when he was the governor of Colorado, guess what happened? They provided universal care, universal access, 100% paid to all forms of contraception, birth control pills, IUD, etc. Under John Hickenlooper, unwanted pregnancies and as such abortions went down. Not because they banned it, not because they defunded, but they added funding to enable people to have access, because even though preventive measures, like preventive care, is supposed to be covered on all insurance plans at 100% first dollar, which includes contraception, IUD, etc., even though that's the case, not everybody gets the Affordable Care Act because the Supreme Court took away the mandate to expand Medicaid. So the states that weren't blue didn't expand Medicaid, and as such, they were still a donut hole of people who were still lacking health insurance, who were still lacking health coverage. And because of that, not everybody had the coverage. So Hickenlooper and the state of Colorado, the government of Colorado, made sure that everybody could have access to these medicines and or other devices that would help prevent pregnancies. And when you prevent pregnancy, you prevent unwanted abortions. Simple as that. So if you want to actually reduce abortions, you should be supporting the Democrats. You should be supporting the people on the left, because leftist policies reduce abortions. The only thing conservative policies do is punish abortions or make them back alley. Simple as that. So choice of the game, do you mean consequences? Are you saying sex is somehow deserving of condemnation? Whatever you think of casual sex, people will have casual sex, people will have abortions, rich people will travel out of state or out of country, poor women will resort to far less safe measures which risk both their lives and the fetus lives. Exactly. Because, the conservatives I mean, I'll allow that, but the fact that whatever Hickenlooper is, I mean, yeah, there's many people are capitalists in the society, and regardless of his views of abortion, it still, or his views of Israel and the Israeli government, regardless of all that, he still made the right decision as it pertained to the providing of birth control pills and IUD universally across the state for free. So Christine over on YouTube says, thanks to Planned Parenthood, I planned my first child when I was married and 24 years old, not unmarried and 15. Yep, there you go. That's exactly, because all pregnancies should be wanted and Planned Parenthood helps that happen. So the goalpost is unrestricted birth control for women. Yeah, and we should also have unrestricted birth control for men too. There should be quality ways to prevent, if men want to prevent themselves from, giving birth with either a chemical way via some sort of a pill or a a lot of times men are not denied the ability to get a vasectomy with the same fervor that doctors will prevent a woman from getting a hysterectomy. Men can go and get a hysterectomy, get it snip done. You might need an ice pack for a little bit, and you might need to remember that there are a few rounds left in the chamber. Or else you might end up with a surprise on your hands. But men are usually not given the same pushback by doctors that women are given. Men are usually not told, what if your future wife wants to have kids? So, again, not her business. Then she shouldn't marry me then at that point, I guess. But if a woman wants to get a hysterectomy, what if your future husband wants to have kids? Again, that should be irrelevant to the conversation at hand. Simple as that. But, see, Edgewalker, do you apply this logic any other aspect of life? Like people go mountain climbing or hiking, should we pay for their gear so they won't get hurt? I mean, we don't necessarily pay for their gear, but again, the mountain hiking or mountain climbing or whatever isn't necessarily, and if they're on Medicaid and doing mountain climbing, then guess what? They're going to get covered. They're going to have any accidents that take place are going to be covered by that. But, there are benefits to the society. I mean, if you can list the benefit to society by providing universal coverage of healthcare, universal coverage of, oral contraception, universal coverage of IUDs, there's a benefit for society to not having to pay for, not having kids put in foster care that you then have to cover and pay for, not having kids, not having pregnancies that are, any procedure that you get is risky. Pregnancy involves risk. Abortion involves risk. Now, of course, the chemical abortions, the one with Mifepristone, are not necessarily as risky as the invasive ones, but sometimes you might have a reaction and sometimes it has to be dealt with. But there are benefits to making sure that every pregnancy is wanted and planned. If you could show that there is a need for paying for people's hiking gear, then I would listen to it. But I think you're trying to shoehorn an argument that really doesn't fit in this particular circumstance. So, see, Dan, I even extended an edge and olive branch of we can provide contraceptives over the counter, and he can wave his stick and scream about godless heathens having too much sex. Damn godless heathens having too much sex. How dare they? Only you can prevent pregnancy. I mean, cause Rose, you can absolutely, block the person, I think, if you don't want to see them. I mean, you still see them on the screen, right? But, sorry, but...
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. And to answer Big Hook, I have no plans of selling all my shit and moving, simply because it's just not feasible at this point. I don't think, even if we were entertaining the idea of moving, at some point, I don't know where we would go, because with Cassie's psoriasis, there's really we can't really go up where it's cold because the psoriasis acts up really poorly, and as of right now, it would be a terrible idea to try and make her move while she's still dealing with all the stuff that she was in the hospital for the past few weeks before last week, right? So JD, is being an edgewalker like being a gooner? There may very well be some similarities, I guess.
Oh my.
Anyway, see, it would more likely be a tubal ligation rather than hysterectomy, which is removal of the uterus. I understand that, but a lot of people, you know, who want the whole thing, a lot of people talk about, you know, I mean, they still get the same pushback on tubal ligations, but there are people who I know who have wanted to go to the doctor and who wanted to get a hysterectomy, especially after Dobbs v. Jackson. And, you know, a lot of doctors are like, oh, we're not going to do that for you either. Because, again, we live in a patriarchal society that still views the women's role as, you know, being broodmares instead of being, you know, actual human beings that should have the right and autonomy to say when they want to get pregnant and when they don't want to get pregnant. But still also enable people to enjoy sex for the physical aspects of it because it's a pleasurable act, right? So, anyway, let's go ahead and change the subject. Exactly, Potimark. We could defund the police, and they wouldn't like that, but defund Planned Parenthood, they're all about it. Let's go ahead and pull this over. So again, we talked about on the show previously to change subjects. The appeals court halts order allowing Calvin Duncan to take office. A federal judge in Baton Rouge ruled that SB 256 is unconstitutional and issued a temporary restraining order against the state and clearing the way for Calvin Duncan to begin his term as Orleans Parish Criminal Clerk of Court. But then Monday morning, a federal court, again the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, stepped in and temporarily suspended the ruling that suspended the law. So less than a day after a federal judge temporarily struck down a new state law that sought to eliminate the office of the Orleans Parish Criminal District Court Clerk, a federal appeals court ordered that the law be able to take effect. Calvin Duncan, who won the office by a wide margin, was only able to serve for a few hours. In the hours leading up to the elimination of the clerk of court's office on Sunday, Judge John W. DeGravils of U.S. District Court for the Middle District of Louisiana granted Duncan's request for a temporary restraining order against the state to keep it from enforcing the bill, which passed the Louisiana legislature last week. The ruling allowed Duncan to start work beginning Monday, the first official day of his 4-year term that he was elected to, at least temporarily. Duncan ascended the steps of Orleans Parish Courthouse Monday morning to assume the office of Clerk of Criminal District Court after the judge of Baton Rouge found SB 256 was unconstitutional and issued a temporary restraining order against it. Hours afterwards, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit put a temporary hold on the hold in response to an emergency motion issued by Louisiana Attorney General Liz Murrill. By 11 a.m. the same morning, Duncan had left the building. Elvis has left the building. Thank you very much. According to Emily Faye Ratner, the co-chair of Duncan's transition team, Calvin is doing his best to comply with the law as it develops. In his ruling, the temporary restraining order, DeGravlis says that the way in which SB 256 abolishes the office months after what Duncan was elected to it unconstitutionally disenfranchises voters, violating the rights to due process and the right to vote. As a result, the court holds that SB 256 is unconstitutional. Duncan, who's an exonerated prisoner turned lawyer, won the hotly contested November election against the incumbent clerk Darren Lombard with 68% of the New Orleans vote. During the race, he clashed with State Attorney General Liz Murrill over his criticism of the state judicial system and the fact that he referred to himself as exonerated of the 1981 murder for which he was convicted. Judge vacated the conviction. Murrill insisted that he was never proved innocent. Of course, we don't live in a society where you have to prove your innocence. We live in a society where guilt has to be proven, and since guilt was not proven according to the rulings, then he wasn't proven guilty. Therefore, he is what? Exonerated. His suit against the state filed last week after the legislature passed 256 accused high-ranking Republican officials, including Murrill and Governor Jeff Landry, who pushed for the bill, of engaging in an unconstitutional campaign to prevent Duncan, a progressive Democrat, from taking office. In retaliation for his rhetoric, the bill, which Landry signed into law on Thursday as Act 15 of 2026, created a single clerk's office to be headed by Civil District Court Clerk Chelsea Richard Napoleon. I'm elated because the people's right to vote is being honored, Duncan said in a press release before the Fifth Circuit ruled. This ruling shows the power of the Constitution when faithfully applied. After DeGravils order came down on Sunday, Murrill filed an emergency appeals court motion. The docket for the Fifth Circuit shows that the Attorney General challenged the Middle District's decision. The Fifth Circuit issued a 2-sentence order suspending the decision at 9:30 Monday morning. The Fifth Circuit has now stayed the misguided district order, said Murrill. Act 15 is fully in effect, and the clerk of Orleans Parish is now responsible for all clerk duties. Murrell added that the Louisiana Supreme Court is the venue that can interpret which state law creates and which creates it and which can be abolished by law. Well, yes, the Louisiana Supreme Court could absolutely rule that a rule is unconstitutional according to the Louisiana Constitution, but the federal district courts can absolutely also determine if a law violates the federal Constitution, which I guess a state court could technically do, but in reality, you know, the federal courts also have the authority to strike down state laws that are federally unconstitutional. Simple as that. Since the state Senator Jay Morris of Monroe introduced the bill in March, Democratic officials, Duncan and supporters have railed against it. The bill was one of several filed this year that reduced positions in New Orleans courts, a priority for the governors. Others, such as SB 217 and 197, both filed by Morris, seek to eliminate the judgeships in the city, and House Bill 911, filed by Baton Rouge Republican Representative Dixon McMacken, would consolidate the city's civil and juvenile courts. Only SB 256, the bill that sought to eliminate Duncan's office, has cleared both legislative chambers. Morris did not immediately respond for comment on Monday. Of course, so here's one Republican from West Monroe, Louisiana, which is about, I don't know, 3 hours away, maybe 4 hours away from us, from here in New Orleans. And then you have another one from Baton Rouge that maybe is an hour to an hour and a half away, depending on where in Baton Rouge you're going to, both trying to order New Orleans, a city that they don't live in, to have fewer offices in the city. Because, you know, I guess crime's so good in New Orleans that we need fewer people adjudicating it. That doesn't seem to make sense whatsoever. And what the fuck business do they have, you know, even understanding what's going on in New Orleans because they're from West Monroe and from Baton Rouge? ACLU of Louisiana, which represented Duncan in the case, praised the ruling initially, calling it a major victory for voting rights and democratic accountability. The group noted it came down shortly after a high controversial decision from the Supreme Court that voids Louisiana's congressional district map, of course, which we'll talk about more in a second. Duncan filed a lawsuit on Wednesday, April 29th, after lawmakers passed the final vote. Duncan's lawsuit is Act 15, the bill dubbed as the Landry Bill, as violating the U.S. Constitution. Again, that's why they would go to a federal court, because they're claiming it violates the federal Constitution. I would expect the Attorney General, Liz Muriel, to be able to understand such shit, but, you know, she hasn't proven herself to be the brightest bulb in the drawer, right? Or in the lamp, I should say. The sharpest bulb in the six-pack, if you like to mix your metaphors. Attorney General Office responded to the complaint, arguing in part that the Louisiana Constitution gives the legislature the authority to restructure and eliminate elected offices. The state also claimed that the state officials named Duncan's complaint are not responsible for enforcing the law. Of course, you know, problem is that you had an election. If you wanted to have this done before this election, you should have eliminated it before the election, or you should have said, okay, it'll go out the next time. DeGrav has largely rejected the state's argument, agreeing with that the state only that Muriel is not responsible for enforcing Act 15, issuing the TRO, which was originally set to stay for 14 days while both sides continue to argue the case. Duncan is ultimately seeking that the law be permanently overturned. Fifth Circuit brief ordering granting a stay, however, creates an additional layer of uncertainty as to who will be running the clerk's office going forward. Status conference between Duncan and defendants in a suit, originally set for Monday at 2, has been canceled. In a statement Monday afternoon, Napoleon said that she is now acting as the single clerk for the city, including by preparing to oversee local elections, traditionally the duty of the criminal district court clerk, as Act 15 dictates. The morning's order from the Fifth Circuit means Act 15 remains in effect. After the Fifth Circuit stay, Alana Odoms, executive director of the ACLU of Louisiana, said she believes Duncan's term was vested at midnight on Monday, and that per the Louisiana State Constitution, his term cannot be reduced or diminished now that it has begun. We don't believe there's anything in the Constitution that will allow this term to be diminished at this point. The story has been updated to reflect the Fifth Circuit's stay order. So, yes. Cosmic Rose. Does anyone here even know what an IUD is? I know what an IUD is. It's, you know, a device that gets inserted into the uterus to prevent the fertilization or ovulation, fertilization, etc. Some of it may prevent implantation. I think newer ones don't. Older ones do. Then again, I was also conceived when my mom had an IUD. So, again, even IUD are not 100% effective because I was conceived when my mom had one in her. So, I guess that's technically not all she had in her.
Oh my.
I don't know. Not necessarily a joke I want to think about, but I still made it for the benefit of y'all, right? What else? What else are we going to talk about? Do-do-do-ba-do. So let's see, so let's talk about Calais again, because we have a lot of stuff to say about Calais, but let's go back to whatever. See, how many types of birth control you've been aware of, asks Cosmic Rose, to Edgelord or whatever. So those who want to buy, Edgelord says, so those who want to buy a lot of pills can buy them if they need them. Do you understand supply and demand and how government spending destroys the price mechanism? Okay, now you're just moving goalposts. Now you're just moving the goalposts when it comes to, you know, that sort of thing. If you want supply and demand to actually be in place, and you would have unrestricted free trade, right? You wouldn't ban the use of these pills. You would just say, hey, supply and demand. If there's demand for these pills and people want to supply them, then why not allow them to do so? That would be the conservative, fiscally conservative argument, right? But no, y'all aren't doing that neither. Because y'all are preventing them from being sold because y'all, you know, hypocrisy is a conservative prerequisite. You'll make free market arguments until you don't. It's all about the free market until the free market bites you in the ass, and then you want to eliminate the free market and ban people from being able to buy things and buy procedures or purchase services or buy goods that they might need to treat whatever it is that they want to treat. Because again, hypocrisy is a conservative prerequisite. You're arguing that maybe, but you're also making the same conservative arguments. Oh, you should have to suffer the repercussions of getting pregnant if you have sex. Yada, yada. So thank you, Alyosha, for the 14. But yeah, I mean, but still, you know, the government things harm the price. I mean, that can be said about some things, but I don't think that can be said about all things. I don't necessarily think the government providing the pills are somehow driving up the price of the pills. In fact, government requiring that all health plans cover the non-abortifacient pills, aka birth control pills, oral contraception. You still have them, you know, even though the Affordable Care Act required them to be covered at 100% first dollar, they're still, you know, there are subsidies to get those plans. You know, because, you know, instead of implementing a public option, which would have been better, we've just enabled a subsidy type plan for people to be able to get subsidies to be able to afford if they can't get on Medicaid, but they still can't afford a regular premium, so they get the subsidies. But that hasn't caused a spike in birth control pills costs. You can still get a birth control pill for $4 some places. I mean, not everybody can use those $4 birth control pills because some people are either have health issues that say that they have to use particular ones, or if they're using the oral contraception for things other than for oral contraception purposes, because sometimes people can take oral contraception to deal with things like, uterine issues, like not fibro. There's a word I'm looking for. I can't remember the name of the condition off the top of my head. But there are like when you get fibroids in the uterus, whatever that's called. I think people can take birth control pills to treat those as well. And that has nothing to do with preventing birth. It just has to do with treating a condition that you can treat with the same hormones that you get in birth control pills. So, and Cosmic Rose, it says, I can't take the pill, so Cosmic Rose used an IUD. Which again, so there should be many different variants available. Simple as that. Oh, Jesus Christ. Now we have to go back to the medical master in COVID. What about medical master in COVID? What was the right amount to produce? Where should they be distributed? Same problem with these drugs. Well, we needed to ramp up the production of the masks because the masks were needed at the beginning, because the people who were in first responders, the people who were in hospitals, needed to be able to have access to those masks. So we didn't want to have people just spending it out. So then the ability to make those masks ramped up so that more people can have the masks if they wanted to go out in public and do things like, get groceries, because you need to get groceries because you still need to eat, even though it's a pandemic. So you want to make sure to protect everybody else around you. But the most important thing was to make sure that the people who were working in the hospitals could have their masks. So the government should have absolutely spent the money to make sure that we could ramp up the production of those things and ramp up production of, things like alcohol wipes or alcohol gel or whatever, and all the other things like, testing kits. Although Donald Trump then said he wanted to stop the testing, because if you don't have testing, you don't have cases. If you have more testing, you have more cases, because that's how science works, even though it doesn't work that way at all. But, I mean, that's the idiot that the conservatives support, is the guy who thinks that testing causes cases. I mean, it's dumb. Dumb, dumb, dumb. I have a Rose in here with me. What's up, Rose? Edge Walker. So what's the right amount? How do you calculate it with the accurate demand side? I don't know. What was the right amount of oil to be produced during COVID? Right? Oil supplies skyrocketed super duper high. So, or I mean, I'm sorry, they went super duper low because demand was lower. So Donald Trump had to do some sort of negotiation with OPEC and Russia to be able to enable, the stabilization of the prices so that the American oil companies wouldn't go out of business, because there came a point where the price of oil was negative because there was far too much supply for the demand that currently existed. So Trump made some shitty deal that limited the oil production by a certain amount to one part, and then after a little bit, it would like increase the production a little bit, but it still didn't have any caveats in it directly to adjust the production and put the production upwards if demand started spiking. And that's exactly what happened in 2022. Demand started spiking while we still had this deal in place, and guess what? Oil prices skyrocketed because we had the same low production, low supply with higher demand, which then caused the prices to spike. So your boy Donald Trump is the one that caused us to have to pay exorbitant prices in gas. And now we're paying it yet again because Donald Trump started a needless war. So what is the... So there are things that are there. Look, certain things absolutely use supply and demand to come into consideration. But maybe certain things that are necessary, or that are public goods, maybe we should have enough available, enough created so that everybody can have enough. Then again, you have people who are CEOs, like, the CEO of Nestle, who basically said there's no right, if I'm remembering what he said correctly, that there's no right of people to be able to have access to water. If there's anything that people should have access to, it's water. Water is necessary for life. But that's the toxicity that comes with unrestrained capitalism. Capitalism is not the answer for everything. Capitalism, whether or not your Uber costs a certain amount or another amount based on supply or demand, fine, whatever. I don't give a shit about that. But, whether or not you should be able to live, capitalism should not be coming into play. You should not be doing things like putting shareholder profits above the lives of the people that you're responsible for. Sure, United Healthcare. Take, for example, me in the situation that I'm still fucking dealing with. You might be new to the show, Edge, but I'm still dealing with this issue. I've lost 164 pounds. 164 pounds at this point. That's my total weight loss over the last 2.5 years or so. I was at my heaviest. Now I'm 164 pounds lighter as of the last time I weighed myself. I did so with the help of Zepbound, tirzepatide, if you will. Some people call it Mounjaro, some people call it Zepbound, really depends what's on the label, but it's the same drug regardless. I was on it at my old insurance at my old employer, but my old employer went away because they declared bankruptcy, so there's no more old employer. They're done. They're gone. Fin. Endometriosis is the word I was looking for. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you. Appreciate you for fixing my brain fart. But anyway, and when I accepted my new job, before I even accepted my new job, I knew we had a United Healthcare as the people that are covering insurance. I knew we were having that. So I went and looked up, does United Healthcare under this plan cover Zepbound? And it said yes. You just have to get prior authorization. I needed prior authorization under Blue Cross, so that's fine, makes sense. All you needed is high BMI and sleep apnea, obstructive sleep apnea. Okay, I have both. I have high BMI, I have obstructive sleep apnea. No issue. They should be able to show that completely. But nope, they denied it. And then the people at my doctor's office who's no longer working there, the person at my doctor's office who was responsible for the prior authorizations is no longer working there. I found that out last week. Guess what? Still, Then she filed another prior authorization. They denied that because it was a duplicate, and then she filed an appeal, denied that appeal. So now we have to do an expedited external review of the appeal, which will now involve getting all sorts of information and documentation together to make sure that we can get this done in a timely fashion. Meanwhile, I'm still without pens, technically, since the beginning of March, or mid-March, or whatever. I don't have any more, pens that were mine. Just put it that way. And so the medicine that helped me lose a whole shit ton of weight to become more healthy, less problems on my knees, less whatever. I have new knees too. But less weight on my knees, that whole problem, now I'm going to have to risk facing it again because these idiots are putting my health behind taxpayer health, behind taxpayer share price health, I should say, or shareholder share price health. Wording it wrong. So, yeah, that's one of the things. That's why we should have universal health care. That's why we should have a plan that's like, Medicare for all. Because I didn't have these issues when I was on Medicaid. Back, in the middle of the pandemic when I completely lost my job, and I was able to go to open enrollment, and they threw me on Medicaid, and I had no problems getting any health issues that I wanted to get taken care of. Not one bit. But now that I have United Healthcare at this new position, I'm having to fight tooth and nail. We still don't have a place for my wife to go get physical and occupational therapy over her 3-week stay, because even though the hospital's a network, even though her doctors are a network, even though everything else at LCMC, which is the hospital system that we went to, they're all a network, all are part of the LCMC system, but the outpatient rehab facility is not in network. It doesn't make any goddamn sense whatsoever. Not one piece of goddamn sense to make that one particular place not be a network. So now we have to try and get continuation of care so that they can treat it as if it was in network, even though it's out of network. And if not, we're going to have to find someplace else to go. But even the places that I looked up didn't have OT. They only had PT. So what the hell, she can't get the care that she needs. Why? Because United Healthcare is a giant piece of garbage that puts, again, shareholder value over the value of a human life. That's why we need Medicare for all. That's why we need a single payer system. At least let us have the public option. At least give us the opportunity to buy into Medicare or Medicaid or whatever. At least give us the public option so that if we want to make that decision, we can make that decision. And if y'all want to continue to waste your money and send money to the people that care more about share value than they care about, the lives of human beings, then absolutely fucking you can do that all you want. Don't make us have to suffer. Allow us to have the public option. And then as people buy into the public option, they're going to other people are going to realize, oh, this is actually a good thing. Oh, I'm paying more. You're paying more in taxes, but you're paying much less in premiums and much less with cost sharing. So overall, you're doing better for yourselves and your families. But for some reason, what's socialism? Well, so is having a military. Having a military is socialism. Having a police force is socialism. Having a fire department that is paid for, not volunteer fire department, but a city or municipality funded fire department. Having those sorts of fire departments are also socialism, because it's everybody pulling their tax dollars in together to get a public good so that everybody can benefit from it. So if you're going to be against things because of socialism, then be against having a military, be against having a police force, be against having firemen, be against having EMS, be against any of the other things that are paid for, be against public roads, be against all the other stuff, because, we know you're against public education, basically because, you want more people for Donald Trump to love. Because Donald Trump said he loved the poorly educated after the 2016 Nevada primary. So you eliminate public education, you create more people for Donald Trump to love. Although I don't even think he's really capable of the actual emotion of love. But, he'll at least fake it and lie to you about it and lie that he loves you in order for him to get you to continue to support his bullshit policies, like, his $1.4 billion ballroom now that's going to be paid for with majority taxpayer dollars. So let's see. So is DB Golden, just because you don't understand doesn't mean there aren't experts that converse worldwide. Exactly. Wait, what? It's Turtle Island? Somebody's talking about Turtle Island, and it's not Big Hook talking about with Jolie?
I like turtles.
That's the first. Usually it's Big Hook and Jolie talking about the turtles.
I like turtles.
Anyway, so we have, let's talk about Louisiana and Calais. The Calais ruling, because we have more with the Calais ruling. Again, April 29th, Supreme Court ruled that the Louisiana's second majority black congressional district. I'm going to love to see what Edgewalker has to say about Calais, because this should be fun, because I've been dealing with the same robotic type of responses on Facebook for a couple of days now, and I want to see if those have permeated all the way through the conservative sphere. So the so-called Snake District was struck down because, I guess let's do a little review for everybody who might not have listened to all the other shows. 3 Supreme Court rulings come into play with this particular thing. You have Gingles, the Gingles Supreme Court ruling, which basically said that you cannot discriminate against somebody based off of their race as it pertains to how you draw the map. So if you draw a map a certain way, that has the end result of diluting the voting power of a minority in the state. Guess what? You have now created an illegal gerrymander, an illegal map. So the minority group, in order to be covered by Gingles, had to be large enough, had to be geographically compact enough, so you could reasonably draw a district where they make up the majority. And the group must also vote similarly and prefer the same candidates, political cohesion. Well, black voters tend to vote, with the Democratic Party like 90% of the time, if not more. And the white majority must vote as a bloc often enough and usually defeat the minority candidates that are preferred. So this is the votes get drowned out, the votes get diluted. So that's the Gingles test. So the Gingles test was used by Milligan. And this is the Alabama ruling. So they ruled that the Alabama congressional districts were illegally drafted because they ended up taking away the voting power, diluting the voting power of the people, of the black voters in the state of Alabama. And so they were required to make another majority-minority district to do that. And then in Louisiana versus Calais or whatever, the Louisiana districts were sued over because they basically said that, hey, Louisiana is violating the law too, because Louisiana is 1/3 black, but yet only has one majority-minority district. So Louisiana, even though it's 1/3 black and 1/3 Democrat, it's really a half Democrat if you consider conservative Democrats. That's how we got John Bell Edwards as governor for 8 years, because you had enough conservative Democrats who were willing to vote for a blue dog conservative Democrat candidate. He was pro-life, he was anti-abortion, so he's the one that signed that terrible abortion bill into law, but he also did other things. But he was an elected statewide Democrat, something that was very few and far between in Louisiana, but still, it just proved that it could happen. But we should really have, 2 liberal leftist type districts, and one, that would be a conservative Democrat type district, and then 3 MAGA districts or whatever if you want. But that's how it should be, but that's not how it is. So in order to fix the rule, and again, it wasn't just a local district court that said that Louisiana's maps were unconstitutional based off of Gingles and based off of Milligan. It was also the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, again, that most conservative court in the land of the appeals courts. The most conservative appeals court in the land went ahead and said, hey, this is, if you apply the Gingles and Milligan tests, then Louisiana is clearly also violating the rules with an illegal racial gerrymander, because you've weakened the power of black voters in Louisiana in such a way that you have to redraw the maps. And then what did Louisiana versus Calais say? Louisiana versus Calais said, oh, well, while it's fine to apply the Gingles test, it's fine to apply Milligan, but what's not fine is to fix the problem of diluting the power of the black voters by taking race into consideration. Make that make fucking sense, conservatives. I want to hear y'all make that make goddamn sense, because it doesn't make sense whatsoever to be able to say that you can't weaken a one race's power who are in the minority. You can't weaken their power voting by drawing districts in such a way. You don't even have the intent. You don't need to intend to do it. As long as the end result is that you have weakened and diluted the voting power of the black voters in your state, you have then disenfranchised them, and you have to redraw the maps. But when you redraw the maps, now according to Louisiana versus Calais, you can't redraw the maps, fixing the problem of an illegal racial gerrymander by taking race into consideration. It makes no goddamn sense whatsoever. Again, maybe Roberts and Kavanaugh were drunk. We understand Kavanaugh because he'll have beer or whatever. I don't quite understand the whole Roberts thing, especially because Roberts claims to support stare decisis, and in many circumstances, he did support stare decisis. Even in the case of Dobbs v. Jackson, when he did vote to uphold the Mississippi rule that would have reduced it to 15 weeks instead of the 20-something weeks, by altering Roe a little bit, he didn't vote with the other 5 members of the conservative voting bloc that ultimately overturned Roe and overturned Planned Parenthood versus Casey. So, but in this particular case, Roberts decided that stare decisis can just fuck right off, because he didn't care about that, because he wanted to uphold this system that basically endorses and holds up white supremacy, because this law is a white supremacy law. So thank you very much, Susie, for being a liberal Danimal for 9 months. Appreciate you and your support. We're going to gift more memberships as well. So don't see Sylvia. I think Sylvia is somebody who has been in the show in the past. So there you go. But we've given the gift out all our 10 memberships for April. So there you go. So anyway, so let's go back to Louisiana versus Callais and what it's done. So the Supreme Court basically said, okay, we're going to, people were saying, hey, folks, we're going to reduce, the Supreme Court should wait for after this election for the rulings to take effect. And there we go. Now my microphone is back. I don't know why my microphone got shut off, but it got shut off apparently. When like 17 people share that there's no sound, I can see other people saying no sound. So thank you for reminding me, but we're going to see no sound messages for at least the next 5 minutes, I guess, because even though we've already seen it, it's there. So, anywho. So, I don't know where we were at. So, but we will go ahead and, I guess, start. What was the last thing y'all heard? You see, Roberts has been trying to end the Civil Rights Act since 1980 under Reagan. He has never been an honest justice. Well, that's true as well. So let's see. Anyways, let's go back to Alito versus Jackson, because that may be where we lost it. So again, Supreme Court Monday, in granting unusual request, allowed last week's major voting rights ruling to go into effect immediately. The decision, which prompted angry written exchange between Ketanji Brown Jackson and Samuel Alito, means that the state doesn't have to wait the 32 days before a Supreme Court ruling is certified. Louisiana has sought to suspend its ongoing primary election so it can redraw congressional districts to take advantage of the ruling, which effectively greenlit states removing majority black districts that were drawn to comply with the Voting Rights Act. State aims to draw a new map that can be used for this year's midterm election. The concurrent map, which includes 2 majority black districts, are held by the Democrats. The 4 other seats are held by the Republicans. Again, it doesn't make any fucking sense, because in Louisiana, we've had a circumstance where we have a election that's currently going on. Early voting is currently taking place. It started Saturday. People have already sent in mail-in ballots for the early votes for those congressional districts, and now we're pushing those races back because they want to be able to redraw maps in such a way. Now, some people are suggesting that it would be just back to 5-1. I'm suggesting that they may very well go to 6-0. They may very well redraw the maps to get rid of both majority-minority districts, because even though the Gingles test says that you can't undo the voting power of black people in this state, in any state, you can't dilute the voting power of black people, because that's an unconstitutional line drawing. But you can't, again, fix it by using what? Race to fix the problem that has been caused by watering down or diluting or eliminating the voting power of black people. It doesn't make damn sense. So, last week's ruling, conservative majority gutted a key provision in the voting rights law, saying states, including those with histories of discrimination against black voters, can use their interest in entrenching partisan advantage as a defense when they are accused of diluting minority votes. In her dissent, Jackson decried the court's decision to bypass its normal practices about issuing final judgments, saying it's tantamount to an approval of Louisiana's rush to pause the ongoing election in order to pass a new map. She noted that the court normally takes a dim view of last-minute changes to election procedures. Instead, on this occasion, the court dives into the fray in a way that is unwarranted and unwise. The court's 2 other liberal justices, Sotomayor and Elena Kagan, dissented in last week's case, but did not join Jackson's opinion. Alito, who authored last week's ruling, of course he did. Of course it was Alito that wrote the ruling. Why wouldn't it have been Alito? We would have guessed on this show that Alito wrote that stupid ruling. Because, again, I'm surprised they didn't even think of it back then, to go check and see who authored the ruling. Because only Alito would be that stupid to say that even though you still have the precedent of that you can't water down minority voters' votes by writing districts or creating districts that, again, dilute their voting power, that you can't then use race to fix it. Only the dumbest motherfucker who's ever served on the Supreme Court could come up with that stupid line of thinking. The same stupid motherfucker that thinks that ruled that people had to be psychic in order to prove wage discrimination in Lilly Ledbetter versus Goodyear Tire. The same dumb motherfucker that said that Hobby Lobby could not cover birth control pills using some bullshit non-science argument because they believe something is true. But it's not true. You can believe it all you want. It's not true when it comes to what birth control pills do. So therefore, they shouldn't have to cover oral contraception if it's a self-funded plan. And self-funded plans shouldn't be allowed anyway, but that's a whole different story. But then, you also had the stupid motherfucker who wrote the ruling in Salinas v. Texas that said, hey, in order for you to utilize your right to remain silent, that you have to actually state that you're invoking your right to remain silent if you're not currently under arrest. If you're under arrest, they have to read you your rights and tell you about your right to remain, the constitutional right to remain silent, and that you can stop talking now or whatever. And if you're under arrest, your not talking can't be used against you in a court of law. But apparently, according to Salinas v. Texas, if you're not under arrest and you're being questioned by the cops and you stop talking and don't specifically say, I'm using my constitutional right to remain silent, that silence can be used against you in court. So yes, of course, the moron that brought you those 3 other rulings brought us Louisiana versus Calais. Dumb motherfucker that he is. And, I predicted that Louisiana is going to try to redraw the maps in such a way to get rid of all of the black districts, to all of the Democrat districts, and try and make a 6-0 gerrymander of the state. I predicted that they would do that. Alabama's ahead of the ball. Alabama, again, the Milligan ruling was over Alabama districts. There was one majority-minority district. The courts found that they illegally, this Supreme Court, with Kavanaugh and with Roberts, ruled in Milligan that the Alabama unconstitutionally redrew the lines to only make one majority-minority district, and that using the Gingles test in Milligan, that they had to create a second district. That's why Louisiana was forced by the Fifth Circuit to redraw their districts too, to create a second majority-minority district. But now that we have Louisiana versus Calais, the Alabama legislature is now going to begin a special session with redistricting possible. The legislature plans to move primaries at least in some districts, while waiting to see if the Supreme Court will lift an injunction against drawing new districts. The Alabama legislature will begin a special session Monday afternoon that could lead to new congressional and legislative maps if the Supreme Court allows it. Governor Kay Ivey called the special session on Friday, bowing to mounting pressure from Alabama Republicans, pushing to eliminate the 2 congressional districts currently represented by Democratic U.S. Reps Terry Sewell and Birmingham and Shamari Figures of Mobile, Alabama. The move came after U.S. Supreme Court significantly weakened Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, which bans racial discrimination in voting practices. Justice Alito's majority opinion made it significantly harder to challenge districts on the basis of racial discrimination. Alabama is currently under an injunction barring it from redrawing its state's maps until 2030. Attorney General Steve Marshall filed an emergency petition with the Supreme Court seeking to have the injunction dissolved. By calling and again, why did they have an injunction barring them from rewriting the state congressional maps until 2030? Because Milligan said that they were being racist pieces of shits in disenfranchising the black voters of the state. And now they're going to ask the Supreme Court to say, let us redraw our maps so that they can do so and then nuke all the voting power in Congress as it pertains to black voters in the state and make sure that white supremacy reigns supreme in the state of Alabama. By calling the legislature into special session, I'm ensuring Alabama is prepared should the courts act quickly enough to allow Alabama's previously drawn congressional and state Senate maps to be used during this election cycle. If the court-ordered injunction is lifted, Alabama would revert to the maps drawn by the legislature for congressional districts in 2023 and the state Senate districts in 2021. A panel of 3 federal judges that include 2 appointed by President Trump ruled those maps unconstitutional, citing Alabama's racially polarized voting in which white Alabamans tend to support Republicans and black Alabamans tend to support Democrats. The justices wrote that to allow black voters a chance to elect their preferred leaders, the state had to redraw one majority district in which the state had since 1992 and an additional majority or near majority district. The Supreme Court upheld the lower court in 2023, ordering the legislature to draw a new map. The legislature in a special session submitted a map and that drew sharp criticism from the judges who said they were defying its instructions. A special master ended up drawing the new map. The special session would set special elections in districts whose boundary lines are altered by a court issuing a judgment, vacating an injunction, or otherwise ordering or permitting an alteration in the boundaries of such districts. Ivey's statement on Friday suggested the legislature would eliminate Figure's seat and redraw 2 Montgomery State area Senate districts in a federal judge last year found to be violating Section 2. But in a joint statement Friday, House Speaker Nathaniel Ledbetter, the Senate President pro tem Garland Gudger of Coleman suggested that the Republican-controlled legislature would go after Sewell's district as well. While there are no guarantees that Alabama's now unlawful court-mandated roadblock will be removed in time, we have a responsibility to give our state a fighting chance to send 7 Republican members to Congress. Again, it is my opinion here of Liberal Dan Radio, talk from left, that's right, and most of the people that watch me, I believe, that in a perfect world, we would have state districts that would represent, the populations of the state. So that if a state is a third Democrat, a third of the state's representation should be Democrats. If a state is 30% Republican, then 30% of that state's congressional representation should be Republican. I mean, if you have one district, then that's kind of hard to do. So with, Wyoming, you have one district, kind of hard to do with Wyoming, right? But what we need to do is we need to eliminate the artificial 435 number with congressional seats in the House, and we need to base it strictly off of the size of a state. So, for example, Wyoming is the smallest state, and you're going to use that size to be the size of one district. Then that number should be used nationwide to be able to say, hey, every state is going to have, if the population of Wyoming is X, then every state should have their population divided by X, rounded to the nearest X, to determine how many seats you should have. And the last time I did this math, that would create about 100 more congressional seats. Just 100, but it'll be 100 more congressional seats. And then those would be allocated by the population. And then to really make sure that it's not the government and the politician choosing their voters, and instead the voters choosing their politicians, we should then move to electing slates of candidates instead of districts of candidates, because districts have outlived their usefulness. Because back in the day, in the 1790s, it was kind of hard to go across a whole ass state to try and get, representation to figure out what the people you want. So you needed geographically compact areas to be able to say, okay, well, we're going to have this person represent this area, this person represent this area, and they should be areas that are uniquely, combined or whatever, uniquely situated or sized as it pertains to population. So maybe the area would be bigger, but still you would have geographically compact areas. Now you don't need that. You have cars, you have planes, you have trains, you have the internet, you have all sorts of different ways to communicate at the speed of light, where you don't need to have geographically compact districts. And if you want to create a district that, takes, for example, the interest of New Orleans into play, then by all means make a slate that's a Democratic New Orleans slate or whatever. We're gonna say we're gonna caucus with the Democrats, but we're going to put up our own slate of candidates, and anybody who supports our slate of candidates across the state can vote for this slate to make sure that these issues are dealt with, and also make sure that New Orleans issues are dealt with specifically. But if you wanted to have like a blue dog Democrat slate, then maybe you would have 6 blue dogs in Louisiana that might jump up, and of the people who vote for the blue dog slate, you then rank the people in order, and there you go. And the top person, if you get one voting district worth of people, you get the top person off the slate. And then if you have a more, a more leftist, liberal, progressive type of slate, of candidates, and you put 6 people in there, and you get enough for 2, then the top 2 get it. And then if you have the MAGA slate, and they represent the rest of the state, you get the top 3. Lather, rinse, repeat. That would be the best way to eliminate the ability of politicians to gerrymander at all, and it would allow Congress to truly be, again, the house of the people and not the house of the politicians. But that would probably require a constitutional amendment, and I don't think there's any political will for that unless a groundswell of people come up, and the only people I really hear talking about that are me. So unless we become super big as a show and start spreading the word about this whole idea about the slates of candidates, and we're not going to do that unless we help the algorithm, help the channel grow, get more people to subscribe to the channel, get more people to watch, get more people to share, lather, rinse, repeat. We'll end up then maybe we can spread the message about that. But until that happens, it's not going to, my words aren't falling on deaf ears, but they're not falling on enough ears to make any sort of difference whatsoever. And now we're stuck with politicians doing things like redrawing states so Virginia is 10-1 or 11-1 or whatever it is, or Alabama will now be 7-0, and Louisiana will be 6-0, and California will be significantly reducing the Republicans say, and then Florida's going to do it, and Texas does it, and all these other states are going to start, drawing these maps, and all we're going to end up doing with all these maps are getting more extreme candidates from each party. And you'll never be able to work together, and the experiment that is America will basically be over at this point, because we'll never be able to work together. We'll never be able to do anything together. So, wait, did Edgewalker really say in the chat, oh no, the great state in Russia? Didn't y'all used to hate Russia until you liked it? Now y'all love Putin because Trump is Putin's bitch. Anyway. Extremes will come before the fall. Pretty much. Exactly, Susie. Good point. Sent sparkles for 2 jewels. Thank you for sending sparklers. Sparklers sending sparkles. That's awesome. That fits in quite well, right? So basically, but that's Alabama doing it. So I guarantee you that if Alabama's going to do it, then whatchamacallit, if Alabama's going to do it, then Louisiana's going to try and do it as well. Let's see. Supreme Court of the United States, Alito concurring the permit the losing party time to file a petition for rehearing. The clerk of court ordinarily waits 32 days after the entry of the court's judgment to send an opinion and certified copy of the judgment to the clerk of the lower court. This period is subject to adjustment. The default applies. Blah, blah, blah. This is not the actual ruling. This is whatever. So let's see. Justice Jackson dissenting. The court's decision in these cases has spawned chaos in the state of Louisiana. Louisiana primary elections were scheduled to take place May 16th, which of course early voting started on Saturday, last Saturday. Accordingly, the state mailed ballots overseas and military voters on April 1st, and to other voters who qualified to vote by mail on April 26th. By April 29th, the day which the court released its decision to hold that Louisiana's concurrent congressional map is an unconstitutional gerrymander, some Louisiana voters had already mailed back their filled-in ballots. The very next day, Louisiana's governor declared that Callais effectively revives the lower court's prior injunction against the current electoral map and suspended the ongoing primary elections for seats for the U.S. House of Representatives. For its part, the three-judge court below declared that due to Callais, Louisiana will be afforded the opportunity to enact a constitutionally compliant map right now for the election in progress, and ordered the state to file a brief outlining how it intends to comply with the Callais decision within 3 days. Neither the governor or the three-court viewed themselves as limited by the fact that this court had yet to issue its certified judgment. So new litigation followed. The candidate and Louisiana voters have already submitted their ballots, filed suit against the governor and secretary of state, asserting that whatever might happen to Louisiana's congressional map in the future, this election is already underway and must continue pursuant to its current maps. But here's the problem even with that. The problem with that argument, and I agree with Jackson in general, I agree with her in principle that, you know, it's completely creating utter chaos in the state. But what's the chaos now is that there are going to be people who are going to go vote, who are being told, seeing signs on their, you know, where they go early vote. And those signs are going to say, we're not going to count these. So now people who would have normally voted in these races are going to think, oh, maybe I don't need to vote in these races anymore because I'm going to vote against them then. So you're screwed either way. You've completely screwed up the results of these primary elections. 100% screwed it up. The only way to fix it, the only real way to fix it is to go back to an open primary for the Louisiana congressional districts, even though we have closed primaries for the state districts, and then say, hey, the only way to fix it is then do that and have that happen in the fall, giving enough people enough time to be able to cast ballots for these elections in the fall. But this shouldn't have had to happen, again, because in Louisiana, or in any state, in reality, you don't need to live in the district that you represent. There's no requirement for people to live in that district. So let's say you elected Cleo Fields for another two years, and then all of a sudden the district got moved. So what? So then you deal with the election based on the new maps in the 2028 election, not the 2026 election. But that wasn't soon enough for Donald Trump and the Republicans, because they want to make sure that they can have enough people in the House to fight off the electoral landslide that would otherwise have been coming because of the extreme unpopularity of Donald Trump. In fact, some of this gerrymandering may very well backfire, because we've already seen in conservative districts that Trump is not popular and has lost ground. So if they've weakened the power of conservatives in conservative districts and spread Democrats out amongst all these other places, it may very well be that you might have enough votes to maybe get 2 or 3 Democratic seats in Louisiana, which would be great. But I'm not holding my breath that the Louisiana Democratic Party would be competent enough to be able to make that happen, because the Louisiana Democratic Party is run by a bunch of incompetent know-nothings. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm going to vote for Democrats 99.999% of the time. I did vote for a Green candidate once when the Democrat was clearly a crook. But, and that's how we got Joseph Cow, the congressperson who told me once.
You are much, much smarter than I am.
Anyway, so we have this situation now that basically says Louisiana voters are screwed, regardless of how Louisiana's politicians do it. This has caused utter chaos in the state. Utter chaos in the state. All because Alito wrote a dumb, stupid-ass ruling that said that the way to fix illegal racial gerrymanders is you have to do it in a way that doesn't take race into consideration. So if the problem is because you've discriminated against a race, how the fuck do you solve the problem without taking race into consideration? So either Alito's a dumb motherfucker and or he's just a corrupt white supremacist. Could be both. Might very well be both. Susie goes, it's going to be crazy no matter what. I mean, sure, that's the case. I mean, there's at this point, you can't unring the crazy bell in the House of Representative races. And I've heard, I haven't seen proof of this yet, but I've heard that even if they try and go back to just to a 5-1 instead of 6-0, if they go to 5-1, that the district, which typically covered New Orleans, is going to be a Baton Rouge district now. So my congressional representation starting next January that gets elected in the fall, if the rumors are true, could very well be a Republican. I could be drawn into Steve Scalise's district, which is fine. I'd be happy to vote for Lauren Jewett against Steve Scalise if that was my options. But I may very well have a Republican representing me in Congress living in the most blue area of the state, which wouldn't make any goddamn sense whatsoever either. So... Big Hook, you guys are the only democracy with an electoral college that allows gerrymandering and cheating. Well, that's because we're special fucking snowflakes, right? Anyway. I think I have talked about everything that I did want to talk about in today's show. But let's go ahead first. And we are going to... Is that weird? That's weird. Oh, it's that one. That's why. It's not downloads. It's that one. So we are going to... Let's go ahead and mute that a second. And then we're going to... For the benefit of the people who did not see the video early on, at the end of the show, or at the beginning of the show, I should say. Again, we're going to end this episode of Liberal Dan Radio Talk from the Left. That's right. We will be back tomorrow and Thursday, same bat time, same bat channel. We will be back bringing on more fun stuff, and we normally have the chat windows up during the final chit chat or whatever. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just have it play full screen so everybody can see the entire thing in all of its glory, all 4 of the Cinco de Mayo videos. So I do want to thank everybody. If you haven't followed me yet, please make sure to follow over on Twitch or subscribe over on YouTube. Make sure to comment, share. If you haven't liked the video, like it on the way out. Make sure to help the algorithm because Al Gore needs more rhythm. And again, my birthday is in 15 days. So if you would like to help try and get me up to 2,000 subs by my birthday, I mean, it's only about, 400 more people to subscribe. Go out there, say, hey, Liberal Dan needs your support. Go subscribe to his channel. You just need 400 people to say yes. Go ahead and do it. So share the hell of the videos. Tell people to subscribe to the channel. Get me up to 2,000. Let me hit that next goal. We will see you then tomorrow. Again, 8 p.m. Central for more Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left. That's right. And again, while we normally let the chat window be open while we listen, we're going to get to hear and watch as well. So I hope everybody enjoys. Appreciate y'all. Peace.
Pictures got hidden, obscuring the past, history rewritten, hung in a hallway where no tour can see, confirming his unending fragility. If Trump can see it, it must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list, object permanent, a milestone missed. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. Was the line that he said. Hundreds of thousands needlessly dead. Now wait, treat justice run my brain work whack, hiding the truth behind his back. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list, an administration run by narcissists. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. Oh yeah. Boxes of documents stacked floor to the wall, top secret folders in a bathroom stall. Charges were pressed, but the case was dropped. A corrupt judicial system he can't corrupt. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. He'll swear it's fake news, a liberal twist. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. Encampments downtown, tents lining the street. Invisible people that power won't meet. Hide them away so the cameras can't find the proof of a system that's cold and unkind. A payout in secret, an NDA signed, and a legal bribe. Michael Cohen fined. Trump got fined too over his gag order, but she didn't gag cause he was much shorter. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. We can't let him win, he must resist. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist.
Gather round everyone and I'll tell you a tale about an orange-faced buffoon who should be in a jail. When people say he's done something that goes beyond the pale, he will shake his head and give this answer without fail. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, he says he tells no lies and that he never jokes. Confront him with the truth, he'll say it's all a hoax. A modern Don Quixote, he hates the windmills, claiming to protect the birds and whales he says they kill. But don't believe that story, it's really just a shill. He just did not want to see them wild golfing on Scottish hills. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, changing a stern path with black marker strokes. Confront him with the truth, he'll say it's all a hoax. Casting mail-in ballots is something that he's done. Now he wants to ban them for each and every one. He claims it for integrity in each election, but he won't believe the results unless it's him that's won. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, he'll fool you with distractions like real sugar and cokes. Confront him with the truth, he'll say it's all a hoax. He promised to release all the Epstein files that caused all our MAGA base to react with smiles. But how long has he put it off? It sure has been a while, and now he's calling this a hoax, protecting pedophiles. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, he'll keep on gaslighting up until he croaks. Confront him with the truth, he'll say it's all a hoax. said take the guns first, lose those rights forever. Signed huge spending bills with Lee. Had Joe done that, it'd be tyranny. They Biden done it. MAGA flip. Had Biden done it. Poll numbers would slip. Had Biden done it. They scream not today, but Trump did it, so it must be okay. Kept secret files, countless untold. Said Putin's word was good as gold. Invited the Taliban to come to U.S. soil. If Joe had done that, they'd all recoil. They all had Biden done it. MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it. Poll numbers would slip. Had Biden done it. They want him to pay. The Trump did it, so it must be okay. Double standards loud and clear. Rules for Trump, but not for peers. What they call treason if Joe's the name is patriotism when Donald's to blame. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, poll numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they shout no way. But Trump did it, so it must be okay.
I like making my
A self-proclaimed king, a groper in chief, stealing our country, a crooked orange thief. For patriots who are poorly educated, wearing red hats and also unvaccinated. Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, down emoji night, Liberal Dan, radio talk from the left. That's right. A failing media that's barely treading water. They're too inept to fight this new world order. Corporate pigs are at the trough. Hear the squeal. The swine won't bite the hands that feast them meals. But Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, down emotion night, Liberal Dan, radio talk from the left. That's right. A leftist voice on air exposing MAGA treason, breaking through their lies with facts, logic, and reason. Unmasking hypocrisy, the truth will be our guide. Call out their lies. Justice is on our side. 'Cause Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, down emotion night, Liberal Dan, radio talk from the left. That's right. Liberal Dan, radio talk from the left. That's right.
Obama and Bush's pictures got hidden, obscuring the past, history rewritten. Hung in a hallway where no tour can see, confirming his unending fragility. If Trump can't see it, you must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. Object permanent, a milestone missed. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. Stop the testing was the line that he said. hundreds of thousands needlessly dead. Now HHS is run by brainworm quack, hiding the truth behind his back. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list, an administration run by narcissists. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. Of documents stacked floor to the wall, top secret folders in a bathroom stall. Charges were pressed, but the case was dropped. A corrupt judicial system he can co-opt. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. That saying includes the Epstein list. He'll swear it's fake news, a liberal twist. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. Downtown tents lining the street. Invisible people that power won't need. Hide them away so the cameras can't find the proof of a system that's cold and unkind. Of chaotic secret and NDA signed. An illegal bribe, Michael Cohen fine. Trump got fined too over his gag order, but she didn't gag cause he was much shorter. It must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. We can't let him win, we must resist. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist.
Gather round everyone and I'll tell you a tale about an orange-faced buffoon who should be in a jail. When people say he's done something that goes beyond the pale, he will shake his head and give this answer without fail. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, he says he tells no lies and that he never jokes. Confronting with the truth, he'll say it's all a hoax. A modern Don Quixote, he hates the windmills, claiming to protect the birds and whales he says they kill. But don't believe that story, it's really just a shill. He just did not want to see them wild golfing on Scottish hills. A hoax, he said it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, changing a storm path with black marker strokes. Confronting with the truth to say it's all a hoax. Casting mail-in ballots is something that he's done. Now he wants to ban them for each and every one. He claims it's for integrity in each election, but he won't believe the results unless it's him that's won. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, they'll fool you with distractions like real sugar in Cokes. Confronting with the truth, you'll say it's all a hoax. He promised to release all the Epstein files that caused all the MAGA base to react with smiles. But how long has he put it off? It sure has been a while, and now he's calling this a hoax, protecting pedophiles. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, he'll keep on gaslighting up until he croaks. Confronted with the truth, he'll say it's all a hoax.
patriotism when Donald's to blame. Had Biden done it, I don't flip. Had Biden done it, full numbers and slip. Had Biden done it, they shout no way. But Trump did it, so it must be okay.
This just in. A sudden spike in logic levels across the city. Citizens report seeing a man with glasses and a podcast mic.
We go now.
Live to Liberal Dan.
Yo, who you gonna call when Nazi writings on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, cause you know we got a plan. The right wing talking shit, but he ain't about to quit. He'll take his proton pack and zap your logic cause it's whack. So who you gonna call when the writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, and the rhetoric will fall.
It's being reported that Liberal Dan is setting up what appears to be some sort of straw man containment field.
He's calling out your lies with his mic, he'll vaporize. Cross the streams in your dreams, bitch, you know that he's too wise. You're like Slimer talking crap, but you walked into his trap. Yo, it's more than entertainment, it's misinformation contained. So who you gonna call when the writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, and the rhetoric will fall. The Statue Liberty, the writing you can see. So bring the huddled masses, it's a war of the classes. While Trump may think he's Vigo, Dan can cut through that ego. He's got the facts to prove him wrong, got that logic like Egon. Your logic is a ghost, cause you know this chick is toast. When you follow MTG, it's conspiracy, you'll see. There's no need to taser, he's got wit like Occam's razor. Liberal Dan cuts those lies with his Jewish-based laser.
It's unbelievable. Liberal Dan just used the literal dog whistle to lure a large group of internet trolls into what is being called a self-collapsing rhetoric singularity. In all my years of reporting, I've never seen anything like this.
So don't call to be a heckler, you ain't no Judge Rexler. He'll bust you like Scolery, cause your logic's looking hairy. Right-wing callers think they're cool, but they sounding just like Zool. You the dog, he the man, and yo, his name is Liberal Dan. So who you gonna call when the writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, and the rhetoric will fall. Liberal Dan, Liberal Dan, Liberal Dan.
They wrote it in the laws, ink still bleeds. Treating women like soil, just planting seeds. She's gone, brain dead, not even awake. But the state's got a claim, gonna plant its stake. Say it's God's will, say it's life they protect. But they ain't the ones feeling pain or neglect. From Texas to Georgia, they set the trap. Rights roll back while they smile and clap. Gilead's here, this is true. Hey, MAGA fools, they'll come for you too. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. This ain't pro-life, it's control and shame. They don't care if she's gone, just playing a game. Keep her hooked to machines, cold and still. Just a vessel to them, not a human with will. No consent, no voice, no chance to resist. Just laws in place, written with a clenched fist. Hospitals scared, judges playing God. Bodies ain't temples, just state-owned pods. Gilead's here, this is true. Hey, MAGA fools, they'll come for you too. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. Bands in the dark, they don't care who it kills. Sacking courts while they strip out all of your wills. But we'll fight back, march loud, burn bright. Cause this ain't the end, it's the start of the fight. Gilead's here, ain't no grace. And those leopards are coming to eat your face. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. Not gonna be a baby incubator. Not gonna be
a dating incubator.
A self-proclaimed king, a groper in chief, stealing our country, a crooked orange thief. Faux patriots who are poorly educated, wearing red hats and also unvaccinated. Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, the animals unite. Liberal Dan Radio, talk on the left, that's right. A failing media that's barely treading water. They're too inept to fight this new world order. Corporate pigs are at the trough, hear the squeals. The swine won't bite the hands that feeds them meals. But Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, the animals unite. Liberal Dan Radio, talk comes the left, that's right. A leftist voice on air, exposing MAGA treason, breaking through their lies with facts, logic, and reason. Unmasking hypocrisy, the truth will be our guide. Call out their lies, justice is on our side. 'Cause Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, the animals unite. Liberal Dan Radio, talk on the left, that's right. Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right.